Story 1. I've just been fired from my job for making a joke that accidentally insulted the company owner's daughter, but I had no idea that it was because she has a disability, so I'm about to slide into her DMs. This literally just happened on Friday, and I've been drowning my sorrows all weekend, dreading the fact I have to start looking for a new job. Explaining why I got fired from my old job is going to be fun. I had been with the company for 3 months and was still on orientation. My job was sales/advertising. As the new guy, I was given existing accounts to manage, which consisted of providing customer service and convincing my clients to spend more money on advertising. All of these accounts already had their ad campaigns done, and if they wanted something new, the account was transferred to a senior account manager who would work with our advertising guys to put something together for the customer. Eventually, I hoped to have that job, but I had to pay my dues by proving I could maintain existing accounts and convince them to spend more money first. Everything was going great, until last week, when we were scheduled to have our quarterly retreat. Since we were the main regional office in the area, all of the employees from the satellite locations came to our office for the retreat. The owner of the company rarely visits our office. He's been overseeing the setup of a new satellite office for the last year, according to my coworkers. But he was there for the retreat, as was his disabled daughter, Amy. One of my coworkers told me Amy works at one of the satellite offices and I probably wouldn't have much interaction with her, but I should be nice. That seemed like a no-brainer. I'm nice to everyone, regardless. I won't claim to be an expert on Amy's disability, but it seemed like she had childlike mannerisms and struggled with expressing herself. She also had some problem with motor skills. I'll describe the only interaction I had with her prior to the incident. I went to refill my coffee and Amy was in front of me, getting her coffee. I watched her struggle with getting condiments added and putting the lid on, so I politely asked if she needed any help. She thanked me, said she did, and let me finish making it. While I was making it, she said she hated coffee, but her dad made her drink it because she had to, in a loud voice, always alert. I smiled, said that was definitely important, and handed her the cup. She thanked me again and went back to the office her dad was using, where she had been most of the day. I felt like I had been a good Samaritan and went on my way. Most of the retreat is team building exercises. Prior to the incident, Amy only participated in the puzzle race, where groups put puzzles together without the box art to see which team can finish faster. Amy wasn't in my group, so I didn't have any interaction with her there. Neither of our teams won. The big event, and the one that everyone seemed the most excited for, was the last activity of the day. Our boss gave us a list of potential clients. We were supposed to select 3 as a group, and put together something to attract the customer. We were told we would be judged on our creativity. My group explained that we could do pictures, slogans, jingles, whatever we wanted. Each person expected to work on one individually, then work with their group to polish it up before it was presented to everyone. It was kind of a big deal because at previous retreats, there would be clients on the list the owner was already close to bringing on board, and if you impress the owner, you might just land that account. I went with a jingle, rhymed a few words, and recorded it. It was silly but fit the brand. My group gave me some pointers, we made some improvements, and I recorded the final product for submission. I helped my team with their projects until it was time to turn everything in. After everything was turned in, we gathered in the big conference room to critique each other. The owner went through them one by one. If it was a picture or storyboard, he'd put it up, read it, and we'd make comments. Good or bad. There were some that were great which drew a lot of compliments, and some that were really bad, which we laughed about as a group. You could tell the senior account managers didn't care much about the exercise or put much effort into their pitches. Nobody seemed to get upset or offended, regardless of the feedback. When my jingle was played, it got a lot of comments, not all of them good, and I took the feedback with a smile. After getting my feedback, I felt a little more comfortable about sharing my thoughts on other presentations. I gave what I thought was valuable feedback to a few products, laughed at a couple others, and then a rather crude drawing was put up for the exact same company I had chosen. I immediately joked that well, at least my jingle was better than that. Did a 3-year-old draw it? And laughed, to absolute silence. I was really confused because plenty of people had made jokes and everyone laughed. Instead, a few people looked at me like I was disgusting and the owner said, well, if you don't have anything nice to say, keep it yourself, maybe? Then my boss scooted down to where I was sitting and told me I needed to go to my desk. Now, I noticed as I was gathering my things that the owner's daughter was red-faced and starting to tear up. The team building exercise was over for me. I went back to my desk and it began to sink in that the drawing must have been drawn by the owner's daughter. There was no warning or anything. The owner didn't reveal who put together what we were looking at until after a few critiques. Maybe I should have known? Everyone was joking and having fun up to that point. Someone else had a pretty bad drawing that got laughed at. Either way, I felt awful. As soon as the event was over, I approached my boss to apologize. He told me to wait for him in his office. Long story short, I was fired. My boss said since I was still on orientation, he had decided I wasn't a good fit for the company, so it was better to let me go now. He didn't outright say I was being fired for making fun of her drawing, but that's literally the only thing that I've ever gotten in trouble for. My work, up until that point, had been praised. I didn't get much time to process it because my boss had already called security, who showed up fairly quickly, and escorted me to my desk to gather my things before escorting me out of the building. An hour later, I got a call from one of my former teammates, who asked if I wanted to join the team for a drink one last time. They needed it after the retreat, and felt bad that they didn't warn me. I wasn't feeling up for it, but I wanted to try and make sense of the whole situation, so I went to the bar. In the back of my mind, I was thinking that since I'm about to start looking for a new job, a few references from former coworkers wouldn't be bad since I definitely won't be getting one from my boss or the owner of the company after everything that happened. The team explained that Amy comes to all of these retreats, and she always does some crude drawing like that. Everyone just sort of knows to say nice things about it, and move on. One of my teammates said that once you've seen one of her drawings, you know what to look for. Well, I didn't, and nobody warned me. I started to get pretty upset that this was a known thing and everyone knew but me, but what could I do? I had already messed up and it cost me my job. The team also shared more about Amy. Apparently she works at one of the satellite offices but doesn't really do anything. The people in charge of the office try to come up with stuff for her to do because she gets upset when she's bored. The team said the way the people who worked there described it, they were basically her babysitter so she wouldn't bother her dad all day when he spent most of his time there, and after he moved on to establish the new satellite office, he didn't take Amy with him because she liked all the friends she had at that office. They also said that her dad had harassed a few single guys at the office to take her on dates, which seemed pretty damn HR inappropriate, but he does own the company. My team said Amy desperately wants a boyfriend and wants to get married, which she talks about all the time. The consensus seemed to be that there's no way she actually understands how relationships or marriage works, and her dad probably put this idea in her head to begin with. One of my teammates did joke that it wasn't a bad deal, because whoever married her would inherit the company since she is the old man's only kid. I wasn't really in the mood for jokes at that point after losing my job over one, so I told them I needed to go. The only good thing is my former team members did say they would gladly give me a reference if I needed it, since they felt so bad about not telling me about the Amy situation to begin with. Oh, and the cherry on top? Amy sent me a Facebook friend request over the weekend. I haven't accepted it. I already upset her and it cost me my job. Part of me wants to accept it, apologize, and block her, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that either. I'm going to take a few days to get myself together and then get my resume out there. Edit. After reading all of the replies, including quite a few DMs, and talking with a close friend, I've decided that I'm going to accept the friend request. I'll do an update if there's any sort of conversation. I plan to open with an apology. If she replies, great. If she doesn't, then at least I will have a clear conscience knowing I've done the right thing. Update. If you saw my first post, you know that I got fired because I accidentally made a joke at the expense of the company owner's disabled daughter, Amy. First of all, thank you to everyone who made me laugh. The first time someone joked about me accepting the friend request, marrying Amy, and taking my revenge by inheriting the company made me uncomfortable. By the third time I saw it mentioned, I couldn't help but laugh. A lot of you gave me good advice. I appreciate those who talked about legal action and what options I had. Unfortunately, I was still on orientation with my company, which is like a probationary period. During that time, they can let me go for any reason. They could fire me for wearing the wrong color socks if they wanted. I had to sign an agreement to get employed which stated I understood this. There's literally nothing I can do, legally. At the end of the day, I decided to go have some drinks with a good friend, talk things out, and see what he would do. Dave's been my best friend since we were in elementary school. We've probably spent more time together than some actual brothers. Dave was firmly on the side of accept the friend request, apologize, and clear your conscience, man. I'm getting us another round of shots. He knows me better than anyone, and he knows that the guilt would eat me alive. I posted it here because it bothered me. I decided to take his advice, and everyone here who pushed me for that as well, especially the ones that DM'd me. So, that's what I did. I accepted the friend request. I immediately messaged Amy. I said I shouldn't have made that joke about anyone's work, it was unprofessional, and I was sorry. It took her a while to respond, but when she finally did, she thanked me for my apology, but said she sent me the request because she wanted to apologize since I lost my job over it. I said she didn't owe me an apology, and there was another long pause before she asked if she could copy and paste something to me. I wasn't sure what it was, but said she could. She pasted a generic message, but one she had clearly spent some time on. I don't want to type it word for word, but I'll paraphrase. Hi, my name is Amy. Please forgive me if I'm slow to respond to you. I suffered a brain injury when I was a little girl and it takes me a while to type things out. There was more to it, but that's the basic stuff. I responded, saying it was not a problem, and she could take all the time she needed. Amy and I ended up messaging back and forth until almost 3 a.m. No, we didn't fall in love. We aren't going on a date. I'm not going to marry her for revenge so I can take her dad's company. However, I do think I would like to be friends with her. Not because I feel bad for her, but because she's a genuinely nice person and honestly, everyone could use a few friends like that. We spent a lot of time talking about her. That's just the direction it went, so I asked questions since she seemed comfortable talking about it. Amy was in a car accident when she was a kid. She was in the car with her mom and they were hit by a drunk driver, coming back from a birthday party for one of her classmates. Her mom didn't make it, and Amy suffered a brain injury that impacts her motor skills. Because it makes it difficult for her to speak and do simple things like getting dressed, making coffee, etc., people assume she's mentally challenged. She was put in special ed because of it, but worked really hard and graduated from high school. She even wanted to go to college, but her dad didn't think it was a good idea. Her life has been difficult because it's hard for her to communicate with people. By the time she can get a fully formed sentence out, the conversation is over. She can type, slowly, but most people don't want to type when they're face to face. She even admitted that when she's not at work, she will sometimes carry a tablet and pretend she's mute, because that's just easier. We eventually circled back to the drawing and my terrible response to it. She wasn't that offended by my response, because she assumed I didn't know. She got upset, primarily, because she knew all hell was about to break loose and she had no way to communicate with anyone. She was so upset when she found out I got fired, and tried to talk to her dad, but he wouldn't listen to her. She's fully aware that a lot of people at the company just pretend to be nice to her because she's the owner's daughter, but she does have a few friends at the satellite office where she works who better understand her disability. She gets frustrated because she can't truly contribute anything, but is happy when they are able to find busy work for her to do. It might take her all day to do something another person could do in a couple of hours, but it's better than sitting around bored all day. She knows she's a burden and a bother to her dad when he's around, but he's her dad and she loves him. She wishes every single day she was a daughter he could be proud of, rather than a burden. She tries talking to him via emails and text messages, but he usually doesn't respond. If they're in the same location, he'll just walk over and respond verbally, which is frustrating, because it becomes a one-sided discussion with her unable to do anything but give simple one-word answers like yes or no. She also thanked me again for helping with her coffee. She said that when she was younger, she tried to do everything by herself, and would get mad when people helped her, but now she's learned to appreciate the few who do. Most just stand there and look away, pretending to patiently wait for her to do it on her own. It was getting late for both of us at that point. Really late. It takes her a long time to respond to messages. There's misspellings. I get why someone would assume she's mentally challenged. I myself referred to her in my first post as having childlike mannerisms, which was a misunderstanding on my part. When she tries to force words quickly or emphasize something, she gets really loud, which makes her sound like an excited toddler rather than an adult trying to have a conversation. We ended our talk last night agreeing to talk again sometime. She asked if I had watched the first episode of House of Dragon yet, which I have, and she asked if I'd like to talk about it after she watches it. I told her I'd love to. So that's it, that's the update. Sorry to those who expected me to steal her dad's company. I'm definitely not doing that. Talking to Amy did make me feel a lot better though. I don't know how I'm going to handle the whole firing thing at my next interview, but a few of you suggested I just leave a gap on my resume, and I may just do that. I doubt there will be any future updates, but at least this has a happier ending than my first post. Edit, she loved House of Dragon. Story 2. My rich parents met an untimely end, and everything that was theirs was left to me, but they forgot to leave anything for their foster son, so I'm keeping it all. I, 35 meters, recently lost my parents in a tragic and unexpected accident, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. My parents were fairly well off, owning a couple of properties and having investments, but they didn't leave a will. So, as their only biological child, everything is legally coming to me once the estate is sorted out by the solicitors. My parents fostered a boy, Jack, 16 meters, since he was 5. Jack has been part of the family for over a decade, and my parents treated him like their own son. But since he was never adopted or made a legal heir, he's not entitled to any of the inheritance. Jack isn't being left completely out in the cold, though. As a looked-after child, he has an ISA set up in his name by the government, which I understand the government contributes to. My parents also put money into it each year. I don't have access to the exact numbers yet because everything is still being managed by the solicitors, but from what I remember it was around 8 to 9K per year. This means Jack will have a decent amount of money when he turns 18, plus whatever support he gets from social services in the meantime. Here's where it gets complicated. My girlfriend has gotten quite close to Jack over the years, and she thinks I should share the inheritance with him. She argues that Jack has now lost 2 sets of parents, his biological ones and now my parents, and that it would be the right thing to do. She feels that Jack deserves something more than just his ISA, especially since my parents considered him their son. I understand where she's coming from, and I feel for Jack. Losing my parents has been devastating, and I can't imagine what it's like for him to lose another set of parental figures. But at the same time, I'm not sure it's fair to expect me to give up a portion of my inheritance. This money could help secure my future, enable me to buy a home, invest, or start a family. I don't have access to the inheritance yet, but when everything is finalized, it will legally belong to me. I'm torn between what I'm being told is the right thing and what I feel is fair. I've always been polite with Jack, but we never really bonded, especially since I was already an adult and living away when he came into the family. So, was I wrong for not planning to share my inheritance with my parents' foster son? I feel guilty, but I also think I have the right to keep what's legally mine. What do you think the right thing to do is? Relevant comments. Comment 1. You are 35. Ben is a minor who has been your parents' child for over a decade. You are going to lose your relationship and likely the respect of anyone who knows you if you don't share the inheritance with your sibling. It is simply the right thing to do. At a bare minimum, you need to set him up a monthly allowance and educational funds, since it seems like you also plan to send him back to the system. Response. Thank you for your perspective. I understand where you're coming from, and I haven't made any full decision yet. I don't even have access to the money yet. But just to clarify your point about also plan to send him back to the system. He was never out the system and I don't have the power to take him out of it. I'm not a qualified foster parent. He couldn't come to live with me even if I wanted that. It would be different legally if my parents adopted him. He could come to live with me. But he is still in foster care. Also, in my country, people's parents don't pay for their child's university. Mainly because student loans here are far less predatory than in a country like the US. But if he did want to pay for university rather than get student loans, then his AITA money would cover it with tens of thousands still left. And by the way, his biological parents aren't dead, he sees them every Wednesday. Comment 2. You don't owe him anything, but poor Ben, left alone, again, at 16. If your parents were taking care of him, it seems that they would want you to continue to help him in some way. What happens to him now? Comment 3. They obviously didn't overly care as they didn't even have a will. Fostering is temporary, if they wanted him around forever they would have adopted. They didn't. Response. No, Ben wasn't temporary. This is going to be kind of confusing to Americans, but we have a different foster system over here in England. He was long-term matched with my parents, which means he was a permanent member of the family. He wasn't ever going to be reunified with his biological parents, but he was not eligible to be adopted. Like I said, he was long-term matched with them, which means he would have stayed with them until he was 18. Update. Hey everyone, it's been a bit of a whirlwind since I first appeared here, and I wanted to come back with a final update. I looked through the comments and took a lot of what was said to heart, even the tough love. Some of you made me realize that I was focusing too much on what was legally mine and not enough on what my parents would have wanted and what Jack really needs right now. First, I want to clarify something that I've been thinking about a lot. My parents were amazing people, and they took Jack in because they wanted to give him a stable, loving home. Even though they didn't adopt him, they treated him as their son. So, I've been asking myself, if they were here, what would they want me to do? I had a long talk with my girlfriend, who's been a rock through all this. She's been a lot more involved with Jack, and she helped me see things from a different perspective. I also spoke to the solicitors to get a clearer picture of what my parents had set up for Jack through his AITA and any other resources. After all of this, I've decided that I will continue contributing to Jack's AITA until he turns 18, just like my parents did. But more importantly, I've also set aside a portion of the inheritance in a trust for him. This isn't about giving away half of everything or feeling pressured, it's about doing what feels right for me and, I believe, what would have been right by my parents. I know some of you suggested that I take Jack in, and while I'm not ready to go that far, I've reached out to his social worker to ensure he's getting the support he needs. I've also decided to stay more involved in his life. I realize now that this is about more than just money, it's about making sure he knows he's not alone in the world. To those who pointed out that I sounded cold or indifferent, you're right, I was. But this whole experience has made me reflect on the kind of person I want to be. I'm not just thinking about securing my own future anymore, I'm thinking about how I can honor my parents' legacy by helping Jack build his. Thanks for the wake-up call, everyone. It's still a painful and confusing time, but I'm doing my best to move forward with empathy and compassion. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that family isn't just about blood, it's about showing up for the people who need you, especially when it's hard. Take care, and thanks again for your advice and support. Story 3.
My insecure boyfriend just smashed my phone, all because I accepted a flower from a homeless dude, and I guess he thought I disrespected him and wanted to smash the dude. My birthday was a couple of days ago, and I haven't spoken to him since. I'm heartbroken about this. I was walking home with my boyfriend, and we passed a group of homeless people. One of them said, "Here you go, miss, since you're the first woman who walked by," and gave me a flower. It was dead. It was around 10 p.m., and my birthday was at midnight, so it kind of felt special to me. I said thank you so much and kept walking. My boyfriend didn't say anything, so I didn't think anything was wrong. I took out my phone to take a video of the flower and tell my friend what had just happened, and he tried taking my phone. I was laughing and asked what he was doing, but he didn't answer and just kept walking next to me. He looked a little annoyed, but I still wanted to get a video with the flower, so I pulled my phone out again. This time, he smacked my hand really hard and made me drop my phone on the concrete. My phone screen was completely broken. Luckily, it was just the screen protector, but still, it was all shattered. I screamed, "Why did you do that?" And he took my flower and threw it on the road. He said that's what I get for embarrassing him like that. I was tearing up because, 1, he broke my phone. 2. He threw my flower away. 3. I couldn't understand what I did wrong. He made me delete the video with the flower in front of him, and we walked in silence the rest of the way home. Once we got home, I blew up at him. I was crying, screaming, and asking him why he did that, literally an hour before my birthday. He said, "How would you feel if a girl just came up to me in front of you to give me a flower?" I said, "If it were the same homeless man that you see almost every day when you walk in your neighborhood, I wouldn't mind." We have walked by this specific man plenty of times. He called me a liar and said I was manipulative for trying to invalidate his feelings when I was blatantly disrespecting him in front of other men. I don't understand how it's disrespectful. I wasn't even going to keep the flower, it was dead. I just thought it was cool because that had never happened to me, especially 2 hours before my birthday. He said a bunch of stuff, basically calling me an attention seeker. I was sobbing. It was already my birthday, and I felt awful. We went to sleep without talking, and the next morning, he was gone. I had a brunch with my friends, so I had my mind distracted for a couple of hours, but it was still in the back of my mind. I still don't know who's 100% in the wrong here. Maybe I shouldn't have accepted the flower, but I honestly saw it as an innocent thing. He still won't talk to me, even though his siblings wished me a happy birthday, but he hasn't yet. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my boyfriend over a flower. What do you think? Relevant comments. Yes, you do want to lose your boyfriend over a flower. There will not be a better excuse for you to separate yourself from this insecure maniac. Update 1. Hello everyone, thank you so much for all the help. I broke up with him. To be honest, I still love him, and I'm trying to cut all communication because I know that if he contacts me again, I'll most likely go back. I literally made a list of all the reasons why he sucks, and I try to read it every time I want to text him, haha. Here's the update. He surprised me with my favorite flowers and a letter. He wished me a happy birthday and apologized for his reaction. He said he was being immature and that it wouldn't happen again. He said we should work on communicating each other's boundaries better. He also apologized for ghosting me for a few days, saying he just needed some time to cool down. Not going to lie, I just wanted my boyfriend back, so I accepted the apology under the condition that he will never do anything like that again. He swore on his life that he'd never make me cry ever again. I genuinely saw a shift in his personality. He was even better than when I first fell for him. One time, we were cuddling and talking about our relationship. He literally started crying while professing his love to me. He said that he knows that sometimes he gets frustrated over little things, but it's because he loves me so much and he's terrified to lose me. He shared so many things about his past, he had never opened up to me before, so it really felt like the relationship grew stronger. We went to the beach as a little birthday celebration for me with his friends. There were 6 of us in total, and I was the only girl. 2 other girls were supposed to come too, but they had work. I didn't know that until I asked one of the guys, and he told me. Long story short, he got mad at me for wearing a bikini. He was like, "What do I look like having my girl walk around half naked like that in front of everyone?" I reminded him that we're at the beach, and a lot of people wear bikinis at the beach. He said that it's different because I'm the only girl there with 5 guys, and it makes me look bad. I said I didn't care and went back to everyone. After a little while, he pulled me to the side again. He called me names and said that one of his friends obviously wants to be with me, but I'm too oblivious to see it. He said he overheard him. I don't think this is true, but I don't know. He was very angry, but he had also been drinking, so that could explain his irrational behavior. I started crying and then went home because I didn't want people to see me like that. He was being so weird. I don't know why he was being aggressive all of a sudden. Before the flower incident, he had never used that kind of language with me, especially in public. He came over that night to talk about what happened. I was so hurt. I honestly thought we had grown closer. We both explained our side of the situation. I told him I wasn't trying to get anyone's attention by wearing a bikini, and I can kind of understand his point of view because I was a little uncomfortable too being the only girl there. He said I could have put my clothes back on, but I had to stay in a bikini. He said I looked inappropriate when I was laying on my stomach tanning. I can't really remember what he said after that. I was just so hurt. We were going in circles, so we decided to just go to bed. He then tried to initiate intimacy, which just upset me more. I said no every time. I heard him say something about me being annoying under his breath, and that was the last straw. I kicked him out and broke up with him. It wasn't easy. He was crying and yelling the whole time. He even punched a wall in my room. I was terrified. I never thought he could do that. We had never fought like that before. He finally left when I dialed 911 and threatened to call. I don't know why I still love him so much. I understand his reactions, knowing his past and what he's been through, and it's a lot, trust me. I know it's not an excuse, but it's still an explanation, right? Anyway, it's over now. Half of my stuff is still at his house. I don't even want to think about it right now. He's blocked. I'm really trying to villainize him in my mind so I can move on, but it's hard when all I can think of are the amazing moments we shared, like how he was crying in my arms telling me he loves me more than life, the day he asked me to be his girlfriend, or the day he gave me a promise ring. Maybe I did go wrong somewhere. It's just so crazy to think that all of this could have been avoided if I hadn't accepted the flower. Also, I am very aware that I'm naive for thinking that he could change so quickly. I just wanted my boyfriend back. Thank you again, everyone, for the advice. Relevant comments. You did the right thing, and I am proud of you. He is violent and harmful, and you simply cannot afford to go back. All those special moments? The crying in your arms, the declarations of love? That was him convincing not only you but himself. Why? Because he wants your forgiveness, sure. But what he really wants is to confuse you and convince you both that he's not capable of harming you. Update 2. Hey everyone, this is the final update on the situation. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I went back one more time. I know it was a poor choice. It's hard to explain, it's like he has a hold on me. At first, it was just about the physical connection, nothing more. We didn't want to completely cut each other off, but I didn't want to officially get back together or start meeting new people, so we agreed this would be the best option. And for a while, it actually worked. After the 5th or 6th time, we decided to try getting back together but to do it right this time. I laid out my boundaries, no yelling, no cursing at me, no hitting, no going through my stuff, and being respectful. I made it clear that if he crossed any of these lines, I would leave him. I told him I wasn't his emotional punching bag and that just because he's been through a lot doesn't mean he can take it out on me, especially since I've never treated him that way. He agreed to everything and shared his own boundaries with me, no yelling, being respectful, modesty, and not going through his stuff. I also read some comments about how punching a wall can be the first step to punching someone, so I told him that could never happen again. He agreed and even booked a therapy appointment. He really committed to the improvement. We both wanted this to work. Our anniversary is coming up, and I didn't want to break up right before it. Things were going fine until he sent me my post and accused me of exaggerating everything, basically calling me a liar. I got mad and called him, and we ended up yelling at each other on the phone. I felt like he was making everything about himself again and dismissing my feelings because he was embarrassed. He came over with my stuff and broke up with me, insulting me the whole time. I didn't want things to end like that, so I asked him to stay and talk. Long story short, we ended up yelling at each other again, and he broke my laptop. I'm so done. Luckily, I'm not going to school this semester, so I won't really need it, but he still broke it. Like, what in the world? I'm reading the book that was recommended to me, and it's hard to accept that my boyfriend is one of those people. I'm glad he broke up with me. I know he's not good for me. He dislikes me now, and it's for the best. I know he won't bother me again, and I have no reason to talk to him now that I have my stuff back. I'm still learning a lot, like what love bombing is. I didn't even know that's what he was doing. I know I'm naive, and that's why I want to stay single for a while. I don't want to end up in this situation again. Thank you to everyone, especially all the women, for sharing your stories and for helping me when I needed it. Relevant comments. Wow, he really showed how much you exaggerated by throwing a temper tantrum and breaking your computer.
Story 4. My long-term loving wife was chatted up at the gym, and is now running away with the gym bro after 3 months, so is there any way to salvage this relationship, or am I cooked? My wife, 30 feet, and I, 33 meters, started going to the gym together. We were loving the results of the fitness. It made intimacy even better and we couldn't keep our hands off each other. We felt as happy and close as ever. Some important information. My wife and her brother were very close when young. He got very into alcohol, went to prison for 10 years, went immediately back to drinking, then died in front of her. 3 weeks after her brother died, this guy chats her up at the gym and she immediately clicks with him. I was wary, but I trusted my wife. She is a sweetheart and never imagined her having the ability to have an affair. Last weekend we had one of the most romantic days and evenings we have had in a while. This week she decides that she cannot go on without finding out why she developed such a quick connection with this guy. We own a house and 3 pets. Her family and everyone we know are devastated and blown away, but she is dead serious. The woman I knew last month, last week even, has left the building. This is a living nightmare that I just want to wake up from. We did couples counseling 3 times, and have one schedule on Wednesday, but she has completely made up her mind and seems to have rapidly fell out of love with me. My life as I had known it is over. I just needed to get this all off my chest. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Nothing will soothe your pain right now, but I want to say this anyway. I was with my wife for 20 years, 2 kids. She slowly developed a drinking problem and it eventually, as I predicted for years, destroyed our marriage. Even now, 3 years later, I can't believe my life turned out this way. But I met someone new that I love, and am very happy. Your life feels like it's over, but it's not. You will bounce back. You got this. Comment 2. Oh boy, this is going to be a rough road ahead. She is looking for an escape and this guy is going to give her one. She doesn't like him, she likes the escape. She will 100% be back. Only you will know if it's too late. Update 1. I had a kind person reach out to me over the weekend asking how I was doing regarding the above situation. The original post was 8 months ago and got a lot of attention, so I figured I would give an update. My wife filed for divorce a month after moving out. During this time I did the whole online dating thing, which was way worse than I could have ever expected. Kept myself busy working out, building my own confidence, hanging out with friends. In general, it was horrible, but I was trying to keep my head up. I was in therapy. Didn't jive with my first therapist, found a new one in December who I liked a lot more and am still seeing her. Mid-December, my wife calls me, crying, asking if she can stay in the guest bedroom because she has nowhere to go. I say yes, even though she hurt me so badly, I did still love her. So things with guy at the gym turned very toxic very fast. I know the word narcissist gets thrown around a lot these days. This guy though, it's hard to believe these subhuman pieces of trash actually exist. So she stays in the guest bedroom for a week, then goes and stays at her parents' for a month. She had a nervous breakdown and was able to get a medical leave of absence from her work. Mid-January comes around and she is back at the house, but still in a very frantic and erratic state. Sort of like she was withdrawing off hard drugs. I had no idea about the addictive nature of toxic relationships. It's a psychological cluster muck. She is clear that she is too messed up in the head to be in a relationship and is going to work on herself. I give her the time and space she requested. She goes all in on learning about the psychology of all of this crap. Inner child work, how the nervous system reacts and attracts you to toxic people if you grew up in a toxic household. Anxious and avoidant attachment styles. There is this book called How to Stay Married, where the wife had an affair and it turns out the root of the issue was her unresolved childhood trauma. Long story short, same thing happened here. It hurts, but I can forgive her. She is my best friend, and we are insanely compatible in a lot of ways. She has really been returning to herself the past month. She is the happiest I have seen in her at least a year, and last week we filed the paperwork to dismiss the divorce. We are both in individual counseling, and soon to start couples therapy. I am sure a lot of people will think I am making a mistake in reconciling, but I am happy. I do trust her that she now has the knowledge to not let this happen again, and she has the drive to become the best person she can be. Edit. I am seeing all the comments and taking everything to heart. Even especially the ones calling me stupid, chump, doormat. I completely understand where you are coming from. I just don't have time or desire to respond to so much. I want things to work out and do trust my gut that this was a one-time thing. I will post an update and take all of the I told you so if it comes to that. Update 2. My self-esteem is re-shattered and I really don't know what to think. My wife and I were together for 12 years and I thought we had a great life. We were getting it on 4 times a week. Felt very passionate. She always talked about how good I was at pleasing her. She always felt satisfied. She left me for someone she knew 90 days and they lasted 5 months. I tried to salvage a relationship of 12 years. Things were decent but the passion was gone and she was clearly hung up on the fact that her knight in shining armor wasn't who she thought he was. It was making me hate myself staying with her, so I finally left. Today she told me that the main reason we were not able to rekindle things is that the intimacy with the other guy was so mind-blowing that she can't be in a romantic relationship that doesn't have that level of intensity. What the flip, man? I don't know how I'm supposed to process this. Relevant comments. Comment 1, she sounds rather cruel and kind of stupid. I bet your life is going to be better off without her in it. Comment 2, your wife chose a fantasy over 12 years of commitment, memories and building a life with you. That's self-absorbed. The fact that she gives you the details too is really low. She could have just said she wasn't happy and ended it. Time to find yourself again and think about what you want. Response and update 3. That's the truth. Wish I had accepted that 7 months ago. Our divorce was 12 days away before she dismissed it. Now we gotta go through it again. Love and learn. I wish that were true. I'm leaving because of her hitting me below the belt. Last week I wanted to reconcile. Try and save what was once a loving and secure relationship. Her telling me that crap was the final nail in the coffin. One last kick in the balls to conclude a year of pain and heartbreak. I will be okay though. Yep, got that right. Also just started making 6 figures in a low cost of living area, in addition to selling a house that is nearly paid off. Fitness is my main priority right now. Overall I'm not too worried. I'm ready to move on. I just feel stupid. Not divorced yet. It's been a long time coming but this crap just went down 2 weeks ago. Our finances have been separate for a while now. She is broke and I have like $150,000 savings. My sister is a lawyer, not a divorce lawyer, but she says I should do it without a lawyer. I am doing the paperwork right now. Soon-to-be ex-wife isn't mad at me or anything. She does feel bad and knows she is the piece of crap in this situation. So she is being civil. We've agreed to sell the house, split the profit, and that will be that. She will leave my retirement account alone. Appreciate the advice. That is sound wisdom. I hike a lot, hit the gym 5 to 6 days a week, have been for 2 years. I'm a novice at guitar and this seems like a perfect opportunity to really get good. Would love to be in a band. We'll have to think about the combat sports. I do kickboxing workouts for cardio and do enjoy those. Yep. No doubt. Divorce has been filed. Thanks for the help. Story 5.
My friends are outing my best friend, because he used to be a woman, so I taught them a lesson by cutting them off for being transphobic, and got nuclear revenge. My bestie Leo and I have been best friends for over a decade, so I've known him since before his transition. He didn't live in the city I did until about 4 years ago, but when he moved, I helped him get a job, make friends, etc. Some people think he's my boyfriend of a year. The truth is a bit more complicated. 2 years ago, I got out of a very harmful relationship. When I was back on the market, I got swarmed with casual guys asking me out. Leo pretended to be my boyfriend to fend off an especially pushy guy at a bar where we're both regulars, and we kept it going because, 1, he was being pressured by his co-workers and mentors, who kept telling him that he's a catch and should date, but he hasn't felt ready, and 2, I needed peace to focus on my therapy and healing from my past relationship. Note, our close friend group knows that Leo and I are not really a couple. Another guy like that was Ian, another friend in the group. He asked me out about 4 or 5 months after my breakup. I explained that I needed at least a 2-year break from dating to focus on therapy, work through my trauma, and take time to focus on myself and what I want. He said he understood, and not even 2 months later, we found out that Ian and another person in the group were a couple, and now they're engaged. Ian has been a friend for maybe 3 or 4 years. We were never especially close, and I always just viewed him as a member of our 6-person friend group. We only ever hung out with the group, never one-on-one. I guess I'm saying this to point out that Ian is sort of like the Flash to my Batman. We get along well when we're with the other super friends, but don't expect too many duo team-ups. At a party at my place, where many of our co-workers and bosses were present, Leo's boss pointed at me and Leo, saying something about how he can't wait for us to settle down and have kids, and asked, "Come on, Leo, what are you waiting for, man?" Ian snorted and muttered man incredulously, then said, "Yeah, if you want to call Leo a man, that's on you." At first, our friends thought it was a supernatural joke, since a lot of us loved the show. But then Ian declared that Leo is actually a woman and provided proof by showing pictures of Leo pre-transition. Ian then made comments implying that I must be a lesbian, I'm bi, and that Leo and I must actually be a real couple and sleeping together. He was kicked out of my home. Being outed as a trans man at work caused a lot of drama, and Leo became depressed, staying with me for the better part of a month. He didn't eat much, lost a ton of weight, and almost never left the house unless he had to go to work. He's been saying very self-loathing, morbid things here and there. I've been really worried about him. I won't lie, I was furious. I'm not an overly confrontational person and am a recovering doormat, but this made my whole being boil. I've been focused on being attentive to Leo and trying to channel my angst, anger, and ire into productive things. But the friend group is a bit complicated, as most think Ian is a jerk for outing Leo, but some also think Leo is in the wrong for not being honest with them. Here's where I might be the schlong. I texted Ian and his fiancée, our mutual friend in the group, Clara, and said that Ian isn't welcome at my home for the foreseeable future and that his future acceptance depends on his actions and Leo's ability to forgive. But Clara defended him, saying Ian was just upset that Leo hid that he was really trans all along and now felt uncomfortable. She said Leo should have said something, at least to our group, before joining outings like swimming, where the men change in the men's locker room and the women in the women's, etc. She said she feels hurt that another woman saw Ian undressing, and the situation devolved from there. In this group, we all work in the same industry but in different departments and mostly at different companies. We're always adjacent to one another in our careers. That's to say, everyone here usually makes at least okay money, and we all know each other's co-workers and the like. I got a call from another friend, Daniel, who is hiring for a senior position. He said Ian had applied for it. Daniel is essentially above Ian, as Daniel is the boss of Ian's current boss. Ian had put me down as a reference, which is something our group does frequently when applying. Daniel was content to use the same letter of recommendation I had sent before when Ian applied for his current position, but he wanted to cover all the bases. I told him that I no longer see Ian as an ethical, responsible, or suitable candidate in our field, given that he seems to be bigoted towards queer folks. As a queer woman, I no longer trust him and would not want to work with him if I had any say in it. Daniel was quiet and asked what caused the change, but I didn't tell him. I just said recent events have caused me to reassess. This was perhaps a week ago. Well, a few hours ago, Clara came over to my place and was pissed. She told me that Ian is getting grilled at work, that HR combed his social media, and they're now considering disciplinary actions against him. She said she knows it's me. She said Leo literally doesn't have the balls to call the company, so it had to be me. She seemed to think I had a crush on Ian and that he turned me down, so I was jealous of her and trying to ruin their lives. She called me desperate and degenerate. I snapped and asked her to leave. She then texted me the same argument she had before, and I reiterated via text that I don't want to speak to her or Ian ever again. I screenshotted all of this and sent it to our friend group chat before leaving the chat. Now I'm getting messages from almost everyone asking what's happening, but also saying that I'm going nuclear and went too far. I texted Leo, and he says he's not ready to deal with a friend group right now, so I can do what I think is right, and he'll regroup and come back to it when he's ready. Did I go too far in involving everyone? What do you think? Update. A little under a month ago, I posted about an ongoing issue. My best friend Leo was outed as a trans man publicly by our former mutual friend Ian. Ian had applied for a job before all this and used us as references, and I said that I don't find him to be trustworthy nor would I want to work with him. Another friend of ours, Clara, basically blamed me for Ian getting a lot of heat at work. The update is that they combed his social media and uncovered quite a few unsavory posts. I never knew this, but he's hugely and vocally transphobic and homophobic. So, instead of a promotion, he got fired. I had already left the friend group chat by this point, and I had blocked both Ian and Clara. My focus was on Leo, who was going through the deepest depression I've ever seen him experience, and we've known each other for a significant portion of our lives. I helped him find emergency therapy, and he stayed with me for almost a month because he was concerned he might relapse. He was spiraling, but thankfully, he's now on the other side of it all. Still, it was terrifying. Neither of us got much sleep during that time, and I called into work often out of exhaustion, concern, or simply feeling numb. A few weeks ago, I caught up with a friend from our old group named Ava, in her 30s, at a place we all frequent. She told me that Ian had been telling everyone that Leo is a woman in real life and cosplays as a man. My blood boiled, but then I heard about Ian being fired, and I'll admit, I didn't feel much sympathy. He hurt my best friend, so in my view, he got off lightly. Of course, about a week after that, I ran into him and Clara at our local grocery store. I'm a creature of habit, that's the store in my community, and I always get groceries on Sundays. Then, I walk across to the Starbucks next door, have tea, and scroll through my phone for a bit before biking back home. I saw them, they saw me, I avoided them, got my stuff, and walked to Starbucks. Ian, I guess, had things to say, so he ended up there too. He approached me as I waited for my coffee and started going on about how I stabbed him in the back, stooped low to do so, and now he has no job. He said he might have to move because of the rumors I spread about him and that he's being ostracized. He kept complaining, and since this is a Starbucks in a pretty liberal city, I just loudly said, "Well, that's what happens to transphobes, Ian. No one likes a bigot. Go away." While he continued talking, I couldn't hear over the nonsense. A big guy walked over and told him to leave. Ian then started arguing with this guy, and they began trading insults until Ian aggressively pointed a finger in my face and hurled a slur. I know. Like, seriously? Leave enough hate for the other people out there. It turns out being openly racist crosses a line, even more so than being everything phobic, because that's when people started shouting. Eventually, he was just drowned out, surrounded by people who seemed ready to stand up to him, some holding their phones up to record. I was forgotten and just sort of drifted back as he tried to take on a crowd of people from our city, where we don't tolerate that kind of behavior. He left and later sent Leo a long message accusing him of ruining his life because he is masquerading as a man. He said that if he were a real man, he would confront him himself rather than have his friend, me, go after him. Ian went on to say that if anything happens to him due to the stress of being so hated, since he's now getting trolled on social media and receiving threats, it will be Leo's fault. Ian mentioned he should sue Leo and me for defamation and lost wages since we started this witch hunt. Today, I heard he moved, without Clara. She's still here. I don't know about her situation right now, and honestly, I don't really care. I do know she met with Leo and apologized, which he accepted, but he made it clear that their friendship is over. She offered to go to Pride, which is happening locally, and Leo said she's welcome to go but not with him. She asked him to give me a note she wrote for me, which he did, but I haven't read it and probably won't. As far as I'm concerned, she doesn't exist anymore. So that's it. I had forgotten about my post until Leo asked me what happened with it, and I was like, oh yeah. Personally, as a lurker, I dislike unresolved stories, so here it is. Here's your conclusion. That's a wrap.
Story 6. My wife hasn't clocked that I know our son isn't mine, and the heartbreak is eating me alive, so should I just pretend I don't know? I've been married to my wife for 3 years and we've been together for 5. Our son just turned 2 in early June, and to put it bluntly, he looks biracial. His skin is darker than I expected, he has curly hair when neither of us does, and his features don't resemble typical white people, which we are. He's a beautiful boy, but he just doesn't look 100% white. A few days after his birthday, I asked my wife if she thought our son looked white. She said yes and asked if I was accusing her of something. I said no because I genuinely wasn't, I was just curious. I know genetics can be weird sometimes. We fought, and I apologized, but I couldn't shake the feeling, so I did the wrong thing and got a test done behind my wife's back. The results came in a few days ago, and I'm not my son's father. I feel conflicted about my son. I love him, but knowing that he isn't mine leaves a sour taste in my mouth. He definitely prefers me, and he's my world, but he's just not biologically mine. I don't know what to make of my feelings. I'm torn about my wife. I don't know how to talk to her. I'm angry, confused, and feeling very, very betrayed. I'm heartbroken too. I still love her. She's at work right now, and I don't want to disturb her, but I feel like I'm going to explode. This is all very difficult for me to process, and I can't. I can't figure out when my wife cheated. We always had each other's locations for safety purposes, and I can't think of any suspicious friends she has or had. We go on regular dates, and our bedroom isn't dead. We were also trying for a baby around that time, so I don't know when or why she cheated on me. Ever since we married, she's been over the moon, constantly showing off her ring and talking about me. She's like a teenager in love. How do I tell her that I know? How do I get the ball rolling? Should I just keep quiet? I don't know what I want to do yet, as stupid as that sounds. I've been stewing on it for a few days, but I still love her so much. Maybe someone can knock some sense into me? I need help. Anyone? Edit, I'm becoming overwhelmed with the comments, and I'm sorry. I wanted to reply to a few, but I can't. I just wanted to say thank you for commenting, and I also hope our baby was just swapped, as terrible as that sounds. Our baby didn't look biracial at birth. As he got older, he started developing features that didn't look entirely like ours. If our son's skin didn't darken over time, I don't think I would have ever questioned anything. The other features can be explained as a fun little surprise or a few generation hops maybe. I know that genetics can be weird. Relevant comments. Comment 1, this is where you need to be strategic, not emotional. I'd get a second test, just to be sure. And I might even have the kid tested against her DNA if you can obtain it, as it would rule out a hospital mix-up. Super rare, but it does happen. Then talk with a lawyer and probably pull half of any shared accounts before confronting her. Comment 2. You mentioned that you were trying. Did you do any IVF? I just watched a documentary where a fertility doctor switched his eggs for any male patient's eggs. Also, there could have been a mix-up there. Someone mentioned a switch at the hospital. Give her the results and ask her to start explaining. Most importantly, talk to a lawyer and immediately start separating any and all financial accounts. As for the whole location being on thing, yeah, someone can leave their phone in one place while they physically go to another place and then come back to pick up the phone, so you can't rely on that. If you have the will and determination, you can figure out anything. Update. Getting the bad news out of the way first, my son isn't mine. I feel devastated and will be divorcing my wife. My wife and I talked about our son a few days after my post, and my wife cracked under the pressure. She admitted to cheating on me without me even mentioning the test I had done. All I asked was if she really thought our son looked white. I mean it when I say that if his skin never got darker, I wouldn't have known. She cried a lot, begged for forgiveness, and told me that we can all still be a happy family, but my image of her shattered right then and there. I'm going through heartbreak, so forgive any mistakes. I'm currently living with my parents. I asked her when she even found the time to cheat on me, and she told me that she would leave her phone in one location and use another. She said that cheating was a mistake and an accident, but how was it a mistake if you had it so planned out? We were trying for a baby around that time, and she told me that she couldn't handle the pressure of it all and just wanted to escape. She didn't escape very well if she still got pregnant and acted like we were perfect. Thank you again to everyone. My wife will now be known as my ex-wife. I apologize to anyone who had hope and thought it was a baby switched at birth situation. I'm somewhat happy it wasn't because that would be terrible, but I'm extremely disappointed because that means he really isn't mine. There won't be any more DNA tests because she admitted to everything and showed me some text messages. There won't be any more updates from me either because I just want to move on with my life. I'll get everything sorted and figure out the whole custody thing. Thanks again, everyone. Goodbye. Story 7.
My boyfriend went to a festival and never came back, so I started panicking, until I received a text from his number, but I don't think it's from him. My 24 feet, boyfriend, 27 meters, left for a festival around 12 o'clock on Friday. He told me he loved me and that he'd see me that night since he had to work on Saturday, and then he'd go back to the festival on Sunday morning. I told him to have fun, be safe, and that I'd see him that night. I went to work as usual and didn't hear anything from him all day, which didn't bother me since he was at a festival. I figured he probably had bad service and didn't want to spoil his fun by being on his phone. I got home after work around midnight and still hadn't heard anything. I was hungry and decided to have some food delivered, so I thought I'd call him and ask if he wanted something for when he got home. It went straight to voicemail twice. I decided to check his location to see if he was still stuck in the parking lot, which might explain the bad service, and that was indeed the case. I didn't think much more of it, ordered my food, ate, and went to bed. Before sleeping, I checked his location once more and saw that the bus was just pulling out of the parking area and onto the road. When I woke up, he wasn't next to me. I immediately checked my phone but didn't have any missed messages or calls. This started to slightly worry me, so I looked at his location again and saw that it showed him in a hotel somewhere. I figured he must have missed the last train home and that I'd see him soon. I went on with my day, deep cleaning the house, doing some laundry, etc., and didn't think about it much more. Then, around 1600 hours, I received a call from his boss asking if I knew where he was since he didn't show up for his shift at 1500 hours, and they couldn't reach him. I hadn't even noticed the time. I called, FaceTimed, texted, and messaged him but got no response. Then, around 1700 hours, I received a single message from him saying he had hurt his ankle and lost his wallet. I asked what happened, if he was okay, why he didn't come home, why he didn't let me know he was going to a hotel, why he was ignoring his boss and me, when he was coming home, and who he was with. None of our friends went to the festival, he went alone. It's now Sunday, and he still hasn't responded nor come home. He turned off his location settings yesterday around the same time he sent that text to me. I have this really bad feeling that something is off. This is very out of character for him. We've been together for 6 years, and he's never done anything remotely like this. I'm worried, I'm angry, and I feel like he's hiding something. I know he didn't plan on going to a hotel, he didn't bring a change of clothes or pack a bag. He just went for the day, planning to come back that night. Am I overreacting for having this bad feeling that something is very wrong? What do you think is going on? Relevant comments. This is very concerning. I've been on the festival scene this year, and a lot of phones are being stolen. There are rings of people stealing dozens per festival. I wouldn't be positive it was him at the hotel with a phone. Does he have an iPhone, and do you have a way to use the find feature? I would push the police. Tell them you don't think he sent the message, this is out of character for him, and it's a huge deviation from his plan. Update. Dear all, we found him. Let me start by thanking each and every one of you for your concern, kind words, and advice. I didn't expect this to get as big as it did. When I posted yesterday morning, I was beside myself with worry, and I had already taken quite a few steps to find him, including calling friends and family. Many people told me I was probably overreacting and that he was just having fun. But it didn't sit right with me, so when I posted online, I was just hoping for a few people to tell me I hadn't lost my mind. When calling the hotel, they initially informed me that they couldn't give any information about guests due to the privacy laws in my country. The police weren't of any help either, telling me that I should contact them again if he hadn't come home by Tuesday morning. I spoke to the management of the festival, who confirmed he scanned his ticket at the entrance on Friday. However, they work with wristbands, so there was no way for them to check if my boyfriend also attended on Saturday and Sunday. With the hotel, the festival, and the police being quite dismissive, I went online. I didn't include all these details in my original post since I didn't want it to get too long, and I figured I could just add information by responding to all of you. Honestly, I can't thank you enough. Your responses really helped me through this and confirmed that the chance of something bad having happened was way bigger than him just having fun. After calling the hotel again and pleading with the manager for quite a while, they informed me that there hadn't been a reservation under his name. I sent his picture to the hotel, and they looked at the security footage around the time his phone showed up there. Although they couldn't inform us of the results, they did promise to keep the footage on file in case the police would need it later on. I contacted the police again with this information, and while they were still hesitant to investigate further, they did give the hotel a call to request the footage of that Friday night. A little while later, they called me back, saying that my boyfriend hadn't been on any of the cameras all weekend, so they could rule out that he had been there at all. Since his phone clearly showed his location there, and I had screenshots to prove it, the police realized that something indeed wasn't right and promised they'd look into it straight away. A mutual friend and I decided to start driving towards the festival site, which was about a 4-hour drive. We knew we wouldn't be able to get in since we didn't have tickets, and even if we did, there'd be no way to find him in a crowd of over 65,000 people, but at least we'd be close by if we received any news. We could also ask around to see if anyone recognized his picture. Before we reached the site, I received another call from the police. My boyfriend had been in the hospital since Saturday morning. He had been found in the ditches of the parking lot of the festival around 3 a.m., along with a few other people who had also attended the festival. All of them had been severely beaten up and were without any of their belongings. The hospital found traces of the same drug in each of their systems, which leads the police to suspect they were preyed upon by groups of people searching for easy targets, people who were alone. Apparently, it usually takes 1 to 2 days to identify an unconscious person without any form of ID on them, which is why I hadn't heard anything earlier. The police are investigating further and will let us know when they find who is responsible. We have already confirmed that we want to press charges. My boyfriend is okay now, and he's expected to make a full recovery. He broke his collarbone and wrist, is covered in bruises and cuts, and has a light concussion. He came home very late Sunday night. Unfortunately, or luckily, he doesn't have any memories of the incident or the events that happened right before. I'm feeling so relieved and happy that we found him and that he's safe, yet so incredibly angry at the people who did this to him and the others who were found. You always hear horror stories about things like this, but you never expect it to happen to you. I'm sorry I didn't update any earlier, but as you might imagine, it wasn't the first thing on my mind these last 24 hours. I'll try to answer a few more questions today if anyone still has some, and then I'll leave this be. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Relevant comments. None of this makes any sense, I'm calling bullcrap. There's zero reason for the poster not to have called hospitals beforehand. There's no way the muggers could have known the boyfriend's passcode to text them back. The hospital would have definitely reported this mass mugging to the police and would obviously connect the two when they supposedly called to report the boyfriend missing. Unless the boyfriend was in a full coma, why wouldn't they ask the hospital to call someone for him? Why do the police need to investigate who's responsible when they already have the footage and timeline from the hotel? If they were all hit by the same substance, then why did they need to be beaten up? Where is the article about this happening? This is insane, unhinged, and makes no sense. They need to take another creative writing workshop and do better. Response. Hi there, thanks for being so thorough in voicing your concerns about the truthfulness of these events. I'm not here trying to prove anything to anyone, but I expect more people will have questions like yours. Where I live, there's no point in calling hospitals. I'm listed as his emergency contact, so if they know he's there, they'll let me know. If they don't know the identity of someone in the hospital, they can't give out any information due to privacy laws, and everything has to go through the police. I'm not sure how they got his passcode, they could have hacked the phone or maybe saw him typing it in. The hospital would have definitely reported this to the police immediately, but it's possible I called the police before they received the notification from the hospital. It's also possible I called a jurisdiction that wasn't yet aware of the incident, as every city has its own police station. My boyfriend wasn't in a coma, but they kept him sedated due to his injuries. He came by on Sunday night, but by that point, we had luckily already found him. Simply having footage of the hotel isn't enough to identify a group of people. They can piece together a timeline based on our stories, but that's not a completed investigation. I may have said it wrong though, English isn't my first language. In my country, things like this mostly get swept under the rug. Unless an actual death occurred, no articles will be published. There are, of course, stories that circulate online about people seeing drinks getting spiked and others warning about thefts going on.
Story 8. I found hundreds of photos of my girlfriend with male dancers on her phone, and I had no idea she likes going to these shows without me, so should I be worried? Leah, 26 feet, and I, 28 meters, have been dating exclusively for 2 years and living together for 6 months. We live in the college town where we both earned our computer science degrees, though we didn't know each other during college. Leah is the classic cute nerd who loves playing video games and is a huge fan of Doctor Who. Leah has a good college friend, Emma, with whom she goes out with maybe once every 4 to 6 weeks. Usually, it's something low-key like a movie or dinner. Many times it's during the week, not the weekend. I've never thought much of it because I've never had a reason to. Plus, sometimes Leah comes home feeling extra affectionate, and we enjoy some intimate time together as soon as she walks through the door. But other times, she texts me to say she's going to crash at Emma's place. A few nights ago, Leah and Emma had a girls' night. She told me they were going to see a late movie and maybe grab some drinks afterward. Leah came home around 11, tipsy but not drunk, and was very affectionate. We ended up spending time together until she fell asleep around 1 in the morning. When I went to turn off her light, I noticed a pop-up on her phone with a QR code ticket pass to something called Men in Motion. I googled it and discovered it's a traveling show featuring male dancers. The ticket was for a show that night. Leah and I don't have an open phone policy, but I knew her password and was curious. I checked her app ticket history and found that she has gone to several of these shows. I also looked at her photos and found a folder with hundreds of pictures of her with male dancers dressed in very little clothing. I'm struggling with the idea that Leah enjoys watching these shows and has been hiding it from me. Although there's no evidence of infidelity, there were 2 nights she didn't come home that coincided with the dates of the shows. I have a good memory. It makes me wonder if something more is going on. I've always trusted Leah, and I don't want to accuse her of anything without evidence. However, this whole situation is making me uneasy. How do I bring this up to her without making her feel like I don't trust her? And how do I deal with the nagging feeling that more may have happened? Would I be wrong if I confronted her about this? Relevant comments. Comment 1. You should take her and her friend out for lunch and ask them when's the next time the traveling dancers are coming around. Ask them what the lie will be next time, a knitting class? Comment 2. That's not a very strong foundation for a lifetime romantic relationship, regardless of whether the topic is dance shows, money, or anything really. Think hard about whether this person is right for you. Response. But everything else in our relationship was fine. I have even been thinking about the next phase. Yeah, I know, this sucks and I think I know what I have to do. Update 1. First, thank you for all the comments. They really helped me get my thoughts straight and realize I had been ignoring some red flags. The shock of knowing that Leah was regularly attending these shows, combined with my own feelings of inadequacy, I'm okay looking but not exactly ripped, made me overlook the fact that the secrecy was the bigger issue. Here's what happened next. I knew I had to talk to Leah. At home Thursday evening, I told her I saw the ticket on her phone the night of the show and asked why she lied to me about going to the movies. She was initially surprised and defensive but eventually apologized for not being upfront. She said that she and Emma considered it a fun and silly girls' night activity. Leah admitted she kept it quiet because she wasn't sure how I would react and didn't want to make things awkward between us. She admitted that this wasn't her first time attending a show like this, but she couldn't remember how many times she had gone in the past. Leah also mentioned something I hadn't considered, that she felt safer attending these shows since they were in an all-women environment, unlike bars and clubs where men often get drunk and hit on women. She reassured me that the shows were just for fun and had nothing to do with dissatisfaction in our relationship. She said several times that she finds me attractive and is very satisfied with our relationship. She even suggested that if it would help me feel better, we could go together to a club with female dancers. Neither of us has ever been to a strip club, but she thought it might be similar and we could experience it together. After a couple of hours of talking, she took my hand and led me to the bedroom to reassure me that I'm still the most important person in her life. By the next day, I felt satisfied with her explanation. Leah didn't tell me how many times she had gone to these shows, but I chalked it up to her feeling embarrassed that I found out. I also didn't ask about the pictures because I didn't want her to know that I had looked at her phone, and there wasn't any concrete evidence of infidelity. However, the next day, something still felt off. Maybe I was just questioning myself and how naive I had been. So, I reached out to a mutual friend of ours, Sarah. Sarah was part of Leah and Emma's college friend group, and I knew Sarah casually from a few classes we had taken together. Sarah and I weren't close, and I hadn't seen her since graduation, but we reconnected at her wedding a couple of years ago. The wedding was just around the time Leah and I became exclusive, and Leah took me as her +1. As far as I knew, Sarah and Leah didn't interact much after the wedding, which I assumed was normal for married people who lose contact with their unmarried friends. I messaged Sarah on Saturday, under the pretense that I was thinking of taking things to the next level with Leah and that, since she was the first person in the friend group to get married and knew Leah, she could give me some advice. What she said next stunned me. She didn't know that Leah and I were a couple and hadn't spoken to Leah since the wedding. She also said we should meet up for coffee so she could fill me in on some things in person, but asked me not to tell Leah we were meeting. Holy cow. We had coffee on Sunday. Wow, just wow. Here's what she told me, chronologically to make more sense. According to Sarah, Leah was a V card holder until her 21st birthday. As a joke, Sarah, Emma, and some friends decided to hire a male dancer for Leah's birthday celebration. To everyone's surprise, Leah really liked the dancer and ended up spending the night. Leah got the dancer's phone number, and Sarah said they met up with him a few times after the party for what Leah called a special private show. Leah was unabashedly proud of this. Leah became more interested in dancers and would suggest movies like Magic Mike for movie night. She would also make comments about guys walking around campus, remarking on their abs and biceps and saying things like, "I bet he looks good in a thong." Leah had a serious boyfriend after college and before we met that I didn't know about. According to Sarah, their relationship ended when the boyfriend discovered Leah in bed with, a dancer. Leah had gone to a male review, hung out after the show, and ended up bringing one of the dancers home. The boyfriend eventually moved out of town for work, which is why I had never heard of him. The friend group knew about this mess, and Sarah figured Leah had learned her lesson. At Sarah's bachelorette party, where Leah and Emma were bridesmaids, Sarah had explicitly told them no dancers. Despite this request, Leah and Emma arranged for 2 dancers to show up, and all 4 of them ended up having a private party. Sarah was understandably furious with them for hijacking her bachelorette and blatantly disrespecting her, and she ended her friendship with Leah and Emma, though she kept them in the wedding party because the wedding was only a week away and she didn't want word of this to get out and overshadow the wedding. Looking back, I remember the vibe at the wedding felt off, and now I know why. I could tell Sarah was still very upset about the situation and believed I deserved to know the truth. Over the course of an hour, I went from stunned to furious. I'll spare you the details of Sunday evening, but I broke it off and told Leah she had until the end of the week to move out. She was crying, begging, and making excuses, but I had enough. Among her excuses, there was nothing wrong with a woman liking attractive men, and that it was all just a fantasy, no different than guys liking certain online content. It got her excited, and I benefited from it. She claimed she loved me, saw a future with me, and could work through this. She insisted she hadn't been with dancers after Sarah's bachelorette party, which was early in our relationship and shouldn't count, but who knows? Leah will be sleeping in the spare room for now, but I told her this is over. I plan to avoid her until she moves out, and I'm not worried about her causing trouble. I think she knows I'll share the whole story with her parents and family if she tries anything. So it's done. Thank you again to everyone who gave me the push I needed to confront this. Update 2. Thank you again for the support. Some of you asked for an update. Leah finished moving out on Saturday. No drama. I mostly avoided her. She made some attempts at reconciliation, but I think she knew it was hopeless. Some of you made helpful suggestions to protect myself, but they weren't necessary. I wasn't worried about her damaging anything. She's not irrational, she just got caught. She also knew I would go nuclear if she tried anything. In all the years we were together, she had never seen me this angry. Honestly, I had never seen myself this angry. I also wasn't worried about her trying to spin a story for sympathy. Our respective families live in different states, our friend circles, what's left of hers, don't overlap, and we work for different companies. So there's no one for her to play the sympathy card on. I also wasn't worried about being trapped into anything, as I wouldn't be intimate with her again. Both of us are well-paid IT professionals with plenty of disposable income and no desire to have kids. My health check came back clean. I spoke with Sarah to let her know what happened. One thing she said made me feel a bit better. She mentioned that during and after college, Leah was actually pretty selective in who she dated and wasn't into the casual culture. Sarah guessed Leah hadn't been with more than 5 guys before me, with the obvious exception being her interest in dancers. And yes, it feels strange to write that. But she probably wasn't running around with random guys behind my back. So, yes, I may have been naive, but not entirely. One of my friends said this whole thing reminded him of stories about people with loving partners who have some unusual interests they satisfy in secret. Losing her V card to a dancer may have impacted Leah's psyche in a way that could only be satisfied by attending these shows. But it's not my problem anymore. I'm doing as well as can be expected in this situation. I'm not really depressed because I'm still angry about everything. At some point, I may even visit a club just to see what they're all about. Thanks for all the help. Story 9.
I was more of a mom to my siblings than my mom ever was, so when she announced she's having another baby, I announced I'm never seeing her again. My mom, 37 fish, has 4 kids, me, 22 feet, along with 3 younger siblings, 14 feet, 7 feet and 4 meters. The second oldest and I have different dads from each other and the other 2. They, along with this upcoming baby, all have the same dad, our stepdad. I'm sorry if that was confusing, there are 3 dads in total, but only our stepdad is currently involved. Growing up, I was the babysitter and mom. When my sister was born, I magically became the mom, even though I wasn't even in double digits yet. When the others came along, I was still the mom. I didn't get to have fun, go out, or be a kid. My job in the house was to cook, clean, raise my siblings, and deal with our mom. She was incredibly immature, loved to drink, party, spend money on luxuries, and avoid being a mom. While she acts more like a mom now, a lot of the work still falls on me. She robbed me of my childhood, and I'm very bitter about it. The only reason I lived at home for so long was that no one else would or could take me in, and I felt I could tolerate it all for free rent and food. It was a good deal for me then, but I'm 22 now. I'm done being a mom when I don't even have kids. Last year, my stepdad's parents died in a car accident, and as their only child, he inherited everything. We all moved into their home and got a bit of money, so I guess they decided to have a baby. When my mom announced it, I asked if she was serious. She confirmed and jokingly asked if I still had my diaper-changing skills. I was silently livid. I dryly laughed and found some roommates online that night. The thought of wasting another 10+ years raising my siblings sounded like hell. She found out that I'm planning to leave in August, and now she's irate, calling me every name under the sun and selfish. She got my siblings involved, and the youngest is crying, asking why I don't love them anymore and why I'm leaving. It's really low to use kids like that, and it hurts. I don't want to stay, but I don't want them to cry. I know I'm doing the right thing for myself, but is it the right thing for them? My mom never really parented growing up. She wouldn't, so I took over that role. I was the one who changed diapers, taught them their ABCs, and all that. I was the one who cooked dinner and bathed them. I see none of my siblings as siblings but as my own kids because that's essentially what they are. I don't think she'll do a good job. She and my stepdad rely on me heavily in that category. Am I going too far for leaving? I need advice on how to get over this feeling and move on. Relevant comments. Comment 1, no, leave now. It's getting way manipulative, and your mom seems like the queen of making poor choices as it is. Like Jesus. Run for your life, remain in contact with your siblings, but it's not your obligation to be a mother to your mom's kids. Response: I agree with her being the queen of bad decisions. When I was born, I could excuse it because she was so young and needed guidance. My grandparents, her parents, were permissive and let her do whatever she wanted with little to no consequences. It was really fun when I was a kid because, well, no rules. I moved a lot growing up into her boyfriend's houses and stayed with her friends frequently when she went out to party. Eventually, as you might expect, I learned that that wasn't fun and that I wanted my mom. I would cry, and she'd push me aside because she just didn't want to be a parent. She's doing a lot more now, like I said in my post, but it's obvious she has no idea what kids are really like. She sees them sort of as decoration because they were always shoved at me. She knows she's going to have a world of hell waiting for her once I'm gone. Comment 2: You tell the kids, I love you in my heart, no matter what, always. And you leave because you deserve a life that is not being a domestic servant to your mother's failed birth control philosophy. You being parentified at such a young age is a form of abuse. Sit down with your 14-year-old sister and explain what happened to you, and that she can't let it happen to her. Your mom will come after her next. It would be a very good idea to get a therapist to help you reframe exactly how badly you have been treated and why you need to leave. You can't help the other kids, really, until you help yourself first. Response: I thought about my sister a lot as well, which is what makes this so hard. I took the brunt of everything so she wouldn't have to. I wanted her to be a kid. 14 is way too early to be a parent, and I know that that's what will happen to her. I know that she'll just do what she's told, and she's responsible enough to realize when things aren't working, and she'll try to fix them herself and fall into that trap. I don't know how to have that conversation with her without my household exploding, but I know it needs to be done. My 2 little siblings have just been crying and crying, thinking that I'm never coming back. Even though I tell them I'll visit, my mom keeps telling them that I'm never coming back and that I'm abandoning the family. Update 1. Holy crap, this kind of blew up when I wasn't expecting it to. Thanks, everyone, for the kind messages. You all are right, I need to go. My mom and stepdad need to figure it out. I'm going to talk to all 3 of my siblings and explain that my leaving is normal and a good thing. I'll always be a phone call away. I'm most worried about my 14-year-old sister, though, and will not hesitate to get authorities involved if I suspect she's going through what I went through or if she tells me herself. I'll be giving her a different type of talk soon to try and prevent her from becoming the new mom. Thanks, everyone. If I update again, it'll be after I've already moved out. I really appreciate your support. It's giving me the strength to do what's right, even if it hurts. My mom and stepdad can hire a babysitter with his inheritance if they really can't do it. Update 2. I just want to say thank you again for your kind words and encouragement. You have no idea what they meant to me. I moved out, and everything is going fine. My mom and stepdad blocked me, but my 14-year-old sister is doing okay. I talked to all my siblings individually, but it was rough in more ways than one. I had an explosive argument with my mom the day I left, but that was to be expected. She said nothing new, called me selfish, a brat, a terrible daughter, and said that she wished she had aborted me. Nothing I haven't heard before. About a week or so before I moved out, I stopped doing most of the things I used to do. My parents freaked out, and we had a lot of arguments, but I'm happy it's over. Every time they saw me, a comment was made either to my face or under their breath. My mom would act like I was invisible and talk crap about me to whoever was around. She filled my siblings' heads with bullcrap, and I was incredibly stressed about it. I actually considered staying at that point. I was very close to just staying home, which I know will disappoint you all, but I almost did. This wasn't an easy transition for my siblings, they're still young. It hurt so much watching them get wrapped up in all of this. My parents had no idea how to do anything, for some reason. They had no patience and couldn't get the kids to listen to them. I know they didn't have much experience in childcare, but they were acting brand new. I had a really hard time watching them struggle and watching my siblings suffer because of it. I felt horrible, like I was neglecting them. School is also coming up soon, and I used to always get them ready, so that's going to be an upcoming problem. I'm happy I won't be around for that, but I'm also sad that I won't be. My little brother will be a kinder gardener, and my sister will be a freshman in high school, huge milestones I wanted to be around for. But on the bright side, my sister is playing the incompetence card all on her own, and I love her for it. After our conversation about not turning out like me, she told me she'll pretend not to know how to do things until Mom stops asking her, which hasn't happened yet. Apparently, Mom asks her to cook, wash the kids, get them dressed, etc. little gateway things that will spiral into her being the new mom. I'm proud of her for sticking to her plan for the few weeks she has. She's a lot stronger than I thought she was. I really thought I'd have to drill it into her not to do anything, but she's doing a lot better than expected. I just hope she doesn't crumble under the pressure. I know it's hard. In order to visit, I have to be welcomed back into the house, but that isn't going well since I'm blocked. I don't want my sister being the middleman, even though she's already trying. I want to see everyone, but without permission, there's nothing I can do. And if anyone cares about my new move, my roommates are great. We played Monopoly on our first night all settled in, and it was a great bonding experience. They're very clean people, which seems so small, but holy crap, it's amazing. I'm loving my current arrangement and hoping it lasts. So yeah. I'm doing fine, my sister didn't take over my job, and I hope she never does, and my parents are losing their minds as expected. I can see their marriage falling apart in the future too. They can figure it all out and raise this one start to finish. Part of me still feels incredibly guilty for leaving, and I sometimes regret it, but my newfound freedom feels so good, and I'm reminded of why I left. I'm going to a bar later tonight with my roommates for the first time in my life to let loose and have fun. It feels so weird to say, but I feel like a teenager, Lamau. Everything is so exciting and feels a bit illegal, like I'm out way past curfew. So thank you again, everyone. I don't think I'd have actually moved without your words. Even though I found roommates, I don't think I could have left on my own. I wouldn't have committed and probably just stayed home. I'm not as strong as I thought I was. It really helped me make a decision when I thought about disappointing you all. I've never met any of you, but having a cheerleader and knowing that so many of you saw my post and wrote me a kind message really helped. I couldn't be more grateful and excited to live my life. I thought it would be a great time to update since I'm going out tonight to have some fun. Someday, all the guilt will be gone, and I'll patch up my relationship with everyone. I still want to have a relationship with my mom someday if she changes and allows it. As much as I say I hate her, I still sort of love her. She's still my mom. Bye, everyone. Thank you all so much.
Story 10. I just discovered my girlfriend's sinful past with her guy best friend, yet they still hang out, and I can't stop them, so I think I might retire from this relationship. My ex-girlfriend, 25 feet, and I, 26 meters, were together for about a year. A few weeks ago, we were hanging out with some of her best friends, not the one in question, playing a quiz game. One of the questions that came up involved cheating. I mentioned that I hate cheaters, and after that, I noticed one of her friends giving my ex a look. My ex also seemed to get a bit uncomfortable. It was weird, and it got me thinking. The next day, I asked her about it. She admitted that she had cheated on her ex a year before we met. I was upset because she had never mentioned it before. When I asked what happened, she said she got drunk and got with a good friend, Ryan. Ryan is a former friend with bits of hers, and they still hang out regularly. I already knew they had a history, and although I didn't like that they still hung out, I just dealt with it. Finding out that not only had she cheated but was still hanging out with the guy made me pretty upset. I told her I needed some time to think, and after 2 days, I decided to break up with her. I didn't want to tell her she couldn't be friends with Ryan, but I also knew I couldn't deal with her still being friends with him. So, I decided to remove myself from the situation. Think this was a good move? Relevant comments. Comment 1. I would have given her a chance to cut off her friendship with Ryan to see if she was cool with that. You never know how much she values his friendship. Most FWBs are not usually cut from the starting squad, if you know what I mean. Still, you're not me, so you do you. I wouldn't be comfortable with her still hanging out with him, especially if she got a little too drunk again while out with friends. Response. From my point of view, she already made her choice when she decided to keep hanging out with him despite being with me. I didn't know all the facts, but she did. I don't want to be with someone who chooses to hang out with someone they cheated with. If she can't see why this is an issue without me having to point it out, we shouldn't be together. Comment 2. Nope. He didn't make her mess up. She messed up. You're not the jerk here. You have every right to feel uncomfortable with her being friends with Ryan. It sounds like you don't trust her, and that's why you needed to break up with her. I'm still friends with someone I cheated on an ex with, but I haven't cheated on my current partner in 14 years. Cheating often stems from not getting what you need from a partner and looking elsewhere. I'm not justifying it, just speaking the truth. However, just because someone cheats on one partner doesn't automatically mean they'll cheat again. People can mature, learn, regret, and change. They might also find a better partner who fulfills their needs in a relationship. Granted, there are serial cheaters, but one incident doesn't make someone a serial cheater. Response. Forget that. If you're not getting what you need from a partner, then break up. I hope your current partner never fails to provide what you need. I bet the person you cheated with wouldn't mind, though, especially since you're still in touch. Update 1. Since so many people took an interest last time, I figured I'd update you all. About a week after my original post, my ex-girlfriend dropped by my place. She said she wanted to get back together and that it was silly for us to break up over this. I told her I wasn't comfortable with her friendship with Ryan. She said cheating with Ryan was a mistake, but it was in the past, and she's grown since then. I told her it doesn't really look like it, considering she still goes out drinking with him often, and they were sleeping together after her breakup with her ex. I told her I wasn't willing to be her next sucker. She then asked, "What if I cut off Ryan? Can we get back together then?" I was tempted for a second, to be honest. Our relationship seemed great. But I remembered some of the comments I read in my last post, and I asked her, "Have you been sleeping with Ryan since we broke up?" I've never seen such a poor poker face. She stumbled over her words and said no. I gave her a look that said, "That's nonsense." She saw this and said, "I mean, we were broken up." I just put my hands up and said, "Nope." Then, I asked her to leave. She was really upset. Update 2. It's been a while since I first posted about my ex. I actually ran into her at a party recently. We talked and were cordial. We didn't discuss Ryan, but she was with someone else at the party. She seemed uncomfortable with me meeting her new guy. Later, I managed to catch him alone and told him about Ryan. His reaction was pretty tame. He just said, "Really? Well, thanks for letting me know." I don't know what happened after that, but I wasted too much time with my ex. I figured I should help the next guy out. As for me, I didn't realize how good it would feel not to worry about my ex anymore. Honestly, even before I found out about the cheating, I never felt comfortable with her going out drinking with Ryan. But now? I feel amazing. I don't have to worry about her anymore, and I wish I had left her sooner. I'm still dating around, and there have been ups and downs, but being single right now feels so much better than any time I spent with my ex. Thanks for all the help. Story 11.
My generational wealthy boyfriend admitted that he'd only marry me if we had a prenup, but I can't stand for that, and I'm realizing I can't stand him. I, 34 feet, have been with my boyfriend, 34 meters, for about 2 years. Everything is going well, and we love each other. We've been discussing marriage, and then he mentioned he would not marry me without a prenup. We discussed this in detail, and I did not like what he proposed. His family owns a lot of property, land, and has lots of savings. After marriage, he wants me to move into one of the houses his parents own. I told him I'm uncomfortable building a life and a family in a house I have no ownership in, and he didn't understand. I told him I'd prefer to rent a place together, or we can live temporarily in one of his parents' houses and look at property together, but he refused. He said he liked the houses his parents and he already owned. He said he would not buy other property, and he said he would not sell any of his property to buy one with me. He told me if I wanted to own property, I could save up money by living in one of these properties and invest in one myself. The problem is, he would be entitled to half if we divorced since my purchase would happen after marriage. He told me I could pay his parents' rent if I feel like I don't belong on the property. He told me I could buy half of the house we live in from his parents. The problem is, I don't like the houses that he or his parents own. They also have a lot of stuff, and I feel like there's no space for me. I want to look at houses, I want to pick a place I live in, and I want to do it with my partner. I've made this clear to him over and over, but he won't budge. He earns more than me, and he has more assets than me for sure. He made it clear he was afraid I was a gold digger, and he wants to protect himself and his family's assets from me, which I can understand. This whole thing has made me feel very weird. This topic has come up before, and it has always made me feel very small. It makes me feel like all he cares about are his assets. It makes me feel like he wants me as long as I fit into the life he already built and doesn't care to build one with me. It makes me feel like a gold digger. He has enough money to retire right now and live comfortably. I don't. He basically told me that whatever money he earns now, he can spend, so he won't be investing in too much anymore. He expects our earnings and our savings after marriage to be split, which I feel off about. I'm sure this is normal for some people. I'm sure other people would be happy to be with someone who is well off. I am not. I want someone beside me building a life with me, not someone who has built a life with his parents and wants me as long as I behave and fit into his life, which is how he's been making me feel. So I'm leaving him. I welcome opinions on this. But yeah, it's been too long that this has made me feel off about our relationship. I'm protecting my peace and leaving him with all his houses and money. What do you, as outsiders, think? Relevant comments. Do you have any more context for the prenup? Response: he mentioned prenup very early, and I would keep asking him about the details, but he would keep it very vague and assure me we would work it out when the time came. I never asked him about his assets, and I never actually knew how much assets his family had. The only things I knew were from some of his one-off comments about certain assets, if he mentioned this tenant or that tenant, or this thing they have to repair, etc. I had also initiated these conversations. He mentioned wanting to live with me and work towards marriage. I figured then that time had come. This is when I sat him down and asked him what he expected from me, what he wanted, and to clarify the conditions of any prenups he wanted to propose. He still tried to dodge my inquiry. It took so long for me to pull this information out of him. I guess I did wait 2 years, but marriage talk seemed like the right time to push him to discuss it. Update. So many things have happened. Before I start, here's some important context. I have a stable and rewarding career, and though I don't earn as much as him, I am very happy with what I can afford. My parents have always taught me that women should be independent, and I've taken that to heart. I live below my means, which has allowed me to put aside money for savings and investments. A lot of comments have mentioned that I should take the free rent, and that it would somehow set me forward in life, but for me, giving up my sense of autonomy and control over my home, my safe space, is not worth the potential savings. I lived with my parents and saved aggressively until I was 30, so I am lucky enough to be in a position where I can comfortably afford rent or a mortgage by myself. Plus, he expected the living situation to be permanent. I would not move into a house owned by someone else just to save on rent. Would it be nice to save $2,000 a month? Sure. But most people pay rent, and I am not an exception. If I really wanted that, I could move back in with my parents. But again, autonomy is very important to me. Also, if he's this stubborn now, I don't see how this situation could be improved later after I already moved in. I could also counter the prenup and make it so all my accumulated assets stay mine, or put in a clause that I'll be compensated for any children we have, or put that I get alimony or at least have a roof over my head in case we divorce. But for me, that feels overly transactional. It also gives me the vibe that I'm going to be living with a roommate who I sleep with and might have babies with, not a partner. I prefer to feel like we're in it together. He can keep what was his, but I want to build up what is ours. Also, if everything is completely split, it'll open up a new can of worms. How will our expenses be split if I'm working and he's just chilling? What happens when we have children? He has money saved for them, but will I get a say in how we spend that money? I know these can be worked out, but this is not the type of marriage I want. I can't predict everything that will happen, and I don't think I can capture it in a contract. And it's already been so heartbreaking for me, I don't want to go through more. Anyways, yada yada yada, I'll just say that it felt like I was being stripped of my autonomy, stonewalled, and treated like a hostel. Okay, onto the updates. So, I told him I needed to end this relationship. I appreciated and truly enjoyed my time with him, but our financial values and the preferred married lifestyle just don't match. It was a quick and easy conversation, to be honest. I expected the breakup to be a bit of a process, not a one-and-done thing, since our lives overlap a lot. I'm also in contact with a lot of his family, so of course, during this whole time, a lot of them got involved, but blah blah. Not super relevant to updates. Talk with his parents. Okay, I love his parents. I had a great relationship with them. I would go over to their house, we would have food, chat, watch TV, sometimes I would go to the parties they host without my ex if he was busy. A few days after my talk with my ex, I went over to say goodbye. I didn't know if the prenup was family enforced or not, so I kept it very general and mainly focused on how the situation made me feel and what I was looking for in a relationship. His parents were shocked Pikachu face when I told them why I was leaving. His parents really want grandbabies, though my ex's younger brother and my sister-in-law do not want kids. They were thrilled when I entered their lives and expressed my desire for children. His parents had built their wealth together, with his dad being the major breadwinner for most of their relationship. His mom was taken aback by what he was offering me, saying it didn't align with the values he was raised with. She had been effectively retired for nearly 15 years and mentioned that ex's dad never made her feel uncomfortable due to their differing earning potentials. They shared that they built their assets for themselves and their children, which includes anyone their children choose to share their lives with. They own many properties but have enough investments to live off. Their plan was to either sign over a house of our choice as a wedding gift or sell a house and provide us with cash to buy a home we both wanted. As they age, they intend to divide their properties evenly between my ex and his brother, since they no longer wish to manage the properties and will live off their investments. Ex's mom said she would have ensured my name was on my ex's portion, especially given our desire for children. They also mentioned that their investments would be directed into funds for future grandkids after their passing, which might be what my ex was referring to when he said his children would be set, though it feels a bit morbid. Ex's mom assured me that the mother of her grandbabies would be well taken care of and expressed a desire for us to be on equal footing while raising a family. Honestly, this conversation felt like a weight off my chest. I had always loved his family and never felt excluded, but the prenup discussions had left me confused and hurt. What they shared aligned with what I knew of my ex and his family before. I'd be lying if I said I didn't start imagining this life. I talked to my ex again. Basically, he told me his dad had previously joked about hoping that he and his brother wouldn't end up with gold diggers, which is where that comment stemmed from. He felt a strong responsibility to protect his parents' assets, not feeling entitled to them himself, and by extension, not believing I should be entitled either. In his culture, sons are expected to carry on the family line, so he felt the need to keep his assets within that line, which I'm not part of, although any sons we might have would be. Most of the assets he worries about are under his parents' name, and he had never consulted them about what to do, he just acted on what he believed was right. He also claimed he wasn't that well off and that his assets shouldn't create a barrier between us, which confuses me further. Isn't the issue here that he was well off and wanted to hold on to what he had, rather than create a shared lifestyle? Perhaps he meant that he didn't own much personally, and that most of it was indeed under his parents' name. He felt like he was punching above his weight with me and was scared that I would leave him. He worried that my interest in him was solely because of his finances, seeing as that was the only area where he felt he had more to offer, while he described me as intelligent, hard-working, and beautiful. His fear about moving forward in the relationship led him to become defensive rather than communicate openly. To me, it seemed that his actions and words were driven by deep-seated insecurity. He had made a few passing comments about how I was more beautiful and hardworking than he was, which I had always interpreted as compliments rather than self-deprecating remarks. Although he is a caring, funny, and intelligent person in his own way, I didn't realize his insecurities were so profound. He also apologized over and over about how he didn't mean to make me feel like an outsider to him and his parents, and insisted that he wanted to share a life with me. He said his insecurities and fear got the best of him, and he didn't handle it well. He had taken advantage of my patience and lashed out because he felt inadequate and scared. It broke my heart because I think all this could have been avoided. We've been through this song and dance before many times, where he would feel some sort of way, then act out as he's processing it. Until now, I always stayed through it and we moved on. But it's never gone on for so long. But I guess the issues we faced before were smaller compared to mapping out our whole lives. I've pushed him to seek individual counseling and we've attended couples counseling together, but I can't force him to sit and identify his emotions or employ the tools we were taught. The prenup conversation happened over a long period of time. He had so many chances to pump the brakes and reflect on what he was saying, and simply just listen to me. But he didn't. He then sat in front of me saying that everything he said before was not what he meant. He said he would be happy to take care of me and our future kids, we could buy a house together, or rent if I wanted to, because now he wasn't scared about creating a life together. Completely opposite to everything he had been saying. But how unsettling is it that he seemed so completely comfortable and confident in the hurtful words he previously said, and was okay with placing me in a very unequal position in the relationship. Despite me continuously trying to articulate what I wanted, and how he was making me feel, he didn't even consider my side, over months. I know I have a good deal with what his parents are offering, and I know he and I get along super well. But I'm not marrying his parents. I can't have his mom with us during every argument or life decision we take. Thinking back, I can count on one hand where we've run into issues, and he was able to address it without acting up. He's such a nice guy, but I can't be his garbage bin every time he needs to sort out his feelings. It's already worn me down. He's a grown man, he's intelligent and intuitive, he's had 2 years to learn how to communicate with me, and he's not. I honestly can't tell if what he said to me is genuine, or coming from his parents, or coming from a fear of losing me. I could give him the benefit of the doubt again, and move forward with the relationship, as I've done in the past, but I'm tired. I think this is a fixable problem, but I also have not seen any improvement since we started dating. If anything, this prolonged experience has made me feel it's gotten worse. I will not make the mistake of investing in a man because of what he could be, instead of who he is. If the last few months are a testament to how he handles stressful situations, I can only take things as they are and assume they won't change. This whole thing has left me sour. I don't need too much, but I do expect to be treated with love and support, even during times of disagreement. I cannot just forget the feelings and words I've felt and heard over the last couple of months. I can't just unhear and unknow that he is afraid I'm a gold digger. That was just one of many comments that really hurt me. I think life will have a lot more ups and downs, and I cannot imagine what kind of difficulties we'll face if this is how we communicate, even after identifying it and working on it in therapy. For these reasons, I'm still choosing to walk away. Very different from leaving because of a prenup, but it is leaving nonetheless. And to be honest, this hurts more. I know it will hurt for a while, but I pray I'll be avoiding heartache and complications in the future. Who knows? If it was meant to be, maybe we'll find our way back. For now, I've told him and his family I need space and time. I know that it seems like I'm giving up a lot, but of course there are things I can't put in a post. Update 2. I actually made the last update ages ago, but took a while to post, because it didn't feel like it was over. But now after this time, I know it is. It's been tough, and it's only been a couple of months, but I'm sure I made the right call. It's tough watching everyone coupled up and having children, but it is what it is. I'm proud of myself for leaving, and I'm slowly healing. Thank you everyone for your comments. I appreciate you all.
Story 12.
My parents want to make my wedding all about my golden child sister, as they want her boyfriend to propose on my special day, so instead we're planning to run away and get married in secret. I'm going to explode with rage and disappointment at my family. My baby sister is the golden child. Or maybe that's unfair to say. She survived cancer when she was a child, which was the darkest period of my parents' lives. I don't remember much of it because my parents shielded me from the horrific truth. I knew she was sick, and I remember spending my childhood in hospitals, but I never knew that my sister almost died until many, many years later. I was 12, and she was 10. After she beat her sickness, she became the obvious favorite in the house. She got everything she wanted, sometimes at my expense. I resented that, but I always heard that I was a naughty girl for being jealous of my hero's sister. My sister grew up to be a brat. Now, 20 years later, she's still bratty, although we get along a lot better than when we were teenagers and young adults. My wedding is in July. Neither my fiancé nor I have the money for a big wedding. We settled for a small wedding, 30 people, at my fiancé's grandparents' house, which has a beautiful lake view. When my parents heard this, they said no way and offered to pay for a bigger wedding in a better venue. We didn't agree at first, but later we didn't want to disappoint them, as it seemed important to them. Last week, my mom invited me over. My dad, mom, and my sister's boyfriend asked me what I would think if my sister's boyfriend proposed to my sister during the wedding, so it would become an engagement party as well as a wedding. Mom had seen reels on Instagram about people proposing to maids of honor and bridesmaids and thought it was cute. My sister is my maid of honor. I said no, that's ridiculous, and laughed. My mom was livid. She told me I was selfish and ungrateful, and I accused her of favoritism. I told her I always thought it was odd that they'd pay for my wedding, but now I know the reason why. She started crying and kicked me out of the house. Later, both she and my future brother-in-law sent me texts warning me not to expose their plan to my sister. My fiancé was disappointed but not sure what we could do. My parents have spent almost $30,000, and it's too late to cancel. My mother called me today to plan the proposal, and I begged her not to ruin my day. She told me that since she was paying, she could make requests, and that I should let go of my jealousy and resentment towards my sister because she's innocent in all of this. But the thing is, this day will be about my sister. I told my fiancé to ask his grandparents if they're still willing to host our wedding. If they are, I'll revert to our original plan. If not, I will just elope. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to tell my family and cancel the wedding or just let them have their grand proposal party. None of my family is invited to my wedding, including my sister. Update 1. I really want to thank everyone who showed me support. I'm now happily married and in Como, Italy, for my honeymoon. I tried to stay away from my phone, but I was so curious to see my family's reaction to my elopement a week earlier than planned. It was really ugly. I must start by saying that I really tried my best to negotiate and compromise with my family and truly explain that this was hurting me. I have nothing against my sister and, to be honest, nothing against her getting engaged at my wedding, but the principle that it was made very clear to me that I had absolutely no opinion or say in what was going to happen on what was supposed to be my special day was where I drew the line. It wasn't a wish or a request. It was a matter of fact, and it was decided. So I told my mom that I'm not going to attend the party she's paid for. Maybe they should just make it an engagement party instead. She got very upset and told me that the engagement was supposed to be a surprise. I told her that I was just giving her the heads up since she was about to lose an insane amount of money. She didn't take me seriously, like I wasn't going to cancel my wedding because of a trivial thing. What she didn't know is that I had already made plans to get married a week earlier at my grandparents' in-laws. We invited our closest friends, and some even had to book earlier flights and take more vacation days. For these people, I was extra grateful. What was left was my sister. I'd been back and forth arguing and negotiating with my parents and future Bill. I decided that even if this would ruin her surprise, I had to tell her, so I did. She wasn't really happy with my mom, but she was more upset that I ruined her surprise, and she, as I expected, thought I could have just sucked it up and gone with the flow. I didn't tell her about my new wedding date. The wedding was dreamlike. In the back of my head, I was hurt that the people who loved me the most weren't there, but I pushed that thought away and refused to let it ruin our day. My husband was amazing. He promised to make me happy for the rest of my life, and to make up for every heartbreak I've experienced in my past. My in-laws surprised us by upgrading our honeymoon to a 5-star hotel. I had my friends, some cousins, and my favorite aunt attending. We asked them not to live stream or upload any pictures to social media until we were all ready on our honeymoon. We also asked them not to engage in any altercations online with my family. Today, my mom made long posts online bashing me and my husband, calling me ungrateful and disrespectful, with pictures of my wedding. She told people I've cost her a big chunk of her savings, and she's now demanding compensation. Her FB post was shared about 200 times, and the majority of my extended family is angry with me. She never once tried to contact me. I really thought she would bombard my phone. Instead, Both she and my dad announced that they're cutting me off and are expecting compensation. My future Bill commented that I ruined his surprise, and my sister made a post about being tired of jealous cows and haters. None of the people we invited have commented, even though some of them were directly attacked, so they respected our wishes. I don't know if they're going to go ahead and turn the wedding into an engagement party now. I really hope they do so the money isn't wasted. It's on Saturday. I'm sorry the update got too long, but with the number of people asking for an update, I hope this was what you wanted. I guess there's no going back for me now. Update 2. They did have a party and they blew the internet with pictures and posts about how magical the night was. Little sister made sure to write about haters not ruining her special day and how she's surrounded by the people that mattered. From what I gathered, about 30 to 40% of the guests that were invited showed up.
Story 13.
My husband shared a room with another woman on his Vegas trip, and this time it wasn't his mom, so I think this could be the end for us. My 36F husband, 42 meters, is currently in Las Vegas for a national bowling tournament. He's there with his mom and her friends and folks from their bowling league. He is an avid bowler, he bowls in a Tuesday night league, often participates in state tournaments, and sometimes competes in national tournaments. Typically, I go with him and sometimes bowl myself. This year, we decided I would stay home with our 3 boys, ages 4, 8, and 10, due to the heat and smoke in Vegas in July. My husband and I have been married for 11 years. This is his second marriage. His first marriage ended because he caught his wife cheating on him with another man. I have never, not once, thought that he would ever be intimate with another woman while with me. He's just not that type. Now, onto this trip. Typically, when he goes on a trip without me, at least once a year, given my job and time off requirements, he stays in a hotel room with his mom or our boys. 3 nights ago, I was on FaceTime with him while he was in his hotel room. It was really nice, and he mentioned possibly taking a nap due to lack of sleep. I asked if he had the room to himself, because that would have been awesome, and he said, "Oh no, she is sharing with me." I asked who that was, and he said something, I don't remember exactly, aside from mentioning she. I said, "Wait, what?" He then explained that he was supposed to share the room with his mom's boyfriend, but plans changed, and now he's sharing the room with another woman on the trip. He told me that I had played cornhole with her last month at a get-together. I reminded him who I had played cornhole with, him and a girl, but not one with the name he gave me. I have no idea who this woman is, at which point he got very confused. He didn't understand why I was upset or frustrated, so I dropped it because I didn't want to detract from his time or his bowling. I know I should have asked how he would feel if the roles were reversed, but I didn't, partly because I didn't want to fight, we hardly ever fight, while the kids were up, and partly because I didn't want to hear him dismiss it as my imagination. I've hardly slept since that night, and my dreams have been full of worst-case scenarios. I still haven't really brought it up again. There have been a few occasions where he has talked about taking naps and how lame he is in Vegas. I've mentioned a few times, sort of sarcastically on the side, that he would be having more fun if he were sharing a room with me or if I were there instead of his current company. But he has brushed it all aside. So here we are, he has spent the last 3 nights in a hotel room with a woman who is neither me nor his mother. Is it right for me to feel upset? Update 1. Okay, so I took some advice and grew a backbone. I texted him a little while ago instead of waiting until he got home. He and our boys are leaving for another trip tomorrow morning. I couldn't get the time off work, so I wanted to make sure we had the conversation fully before he left again. Before I give the update, I want to make a couple of things clear. I do trust my husband. He has never shown himself to be the kind of person who would cheat, and that's not what truly concerned me, even though I did have some pretty unpleasant dreams. My issue is that he wasn't upfront and honest with me. If I had done the same thing, he would have lost his mind, understandably. This is why I started the original post with "he's just not that type." We generally have great communication. The issue here is that I prefer to have this kind of conversation face to face rather than over the phone. It's just not something I like to hash out when we're not in the same space. Obviously, in this situation, I should have made an exception, and I've now done so. Now, for the update. I texted him today to tell him that this situation has been bothering me for the last 3 days. I had questions, and we needed to have this conversation. I asked who the woman was, how old she was, and why he didn't tell me about the situation before I found out by accident. There was a mix-up with the rooms, something about someone not going, so people were shuffled. He was paired with a woman about my age. He said he didn't think it would be a big deal and didn't want to inconvenience everyone else on the trip. He also said he didn't want to upset me, which is why he didn't tell me outright. He assured me that I never had anything to worry about and that he made sure they weren't alone together in the room except when they were sleeping. I know, but I really do believe him on this. I was honest with him and told him that if the roles were reversed, out of respect for him, I would have called him right away to make sure he was okay with it. I told him that while I trust him implicitly, I shouldn't have found out the way I did. And he shouldn't have brushed off my concern. I told him that the lack of upfront communication felt suspicious, regardless of intention or what actually happened. As for not upsetting me, I told him I would have understood and not been upset if he had just been honest. He has apologized profusely. I told him that next time, he should just communicate, and he is adamant there will not be a next time. So, call me naive if you want, but I'm dropping it at this point. He will be home this evening, and I intend to have a nice evening with him before I don't see him again for another 2 weeks. Thank you for the advice. I cried it out when I found out her age, but getting this off my chest has been very relieving. My husband is coming home tonight, and we will talk. I'm hoping it's an 82-year-old grandma. Update 2. I am not handling this as well as I thought I would. I had decided to let it go. I know he wasn't doing anything with this other woman. You can disagree and call me crazy if you'd like, but I know that to be true. However, despite my efforts, I can't get past the fact that he made a decision to do something he knew I wouldn't be okay with, and he didn't tell me about it. It all feels so messed up. I've talked to a few of my co-workers. I don't have many friends who aren't also his friends, and I talk to them regularly, but there's no way I'm going to talk to my family because that's a storm I can't handle right now. They are all shocked and more angry for me than I've let myself be. Most of them know him, the kind of person he is, and what ended his first marriage. He used to work at the same company. We had less than 24 hours together before his mom, and all 3 of my children took their trip to the other side of the United States. I've been sitting with my feelings and will continue to do so until they get back, almost another week from now. I was on the phone with them this evening before they went to bed, and one of the first things my husband said to me was, "I'm sharing a bed with a redhead tonight." I almost came unglued before I realized he was talking about one of our boys. We have 3 sons. After a very long pause, I said, "You better be talking about our son," and I was so angry that I don't understand how he didn't pick up on that. Every conversation we've had has been short and to the point because I'm really just not interested in talking to him. I've been calling my oldest son and talking with my boys instead. His mom hasn't really said much to me, which makes me think he said something to her. That's fine, of course, I really don't care about that. Bottom line, I don't know what to do. It's midnight here, and I tried to go to bed 2 hours ago, but just couldn't stop sobbing, so I got up and let it out. It felt good to release it, but I know I need to talk to someone. I have support lines through work I can call, but I won't tonight, too many drinks, and I don't want to bring that into it as well, but I will call tomorrow. I know I should be upset and angry and not just let it go. But I'm afraid that when I do talk to a professional, they'll say I'm blowing it out of proportion. I will still call, but I need to get my head straight first. He's bicycling for 7 days, over 400 miles, so as much as I want to tear into him right now, especially after his completely insensitive and clueless joke this evening, I have not. Because I want him home safe and sound. Regardless of my feelings at this moment, the most important thing is that my children's dad comes home safe so we can hash this out at least in the same city and not while he's 1,000 miles away. With his mom. And my children. Update 3. I'm sorry it's been a bit since I last updated, things have been a lot. My family came home a day early, so I took 2 extra days off work to see them and figure things out with my husband. After we unloaded and put everything away, we had dinner and watched a show. After putting the boys to bed, my husband and I went to our room. It was pretty clear he thought he was going to get lucky because he was very confused when I turned the light on. I told him that I had questions and needed him to answer them. He was hesitant but agreed. I asked him who this woman is, how old she is, and if she's married. I still don't know who she is, but he did confirm she's younger than me and not married. I then asked who made the decision that he would share a room with her. He said that his mom suggested it would be really great if they shared so she could spend the 3 nights with her not boyfriend. I asked him why he didn't tell me about it. He said he was just so tired and had had such a long day that he didn't think about it, conflicting with his earlier statement, "I didn't want to upset you." He said he didn't think I would ever question his intentions, so why would he think he had to tell me? I told him it wasn't about questioning his intentions or fidelity, it was about the fact that what they did was completely inappropriate and disrespectful to me and our marriage. And at the very least, he should have sent me a quick text explaining the situation. I also told him that his mom is not always right. He apologized profusely, said he shouldn't have put his mom before me, and didn't think it would be an issue because he would never try to hurt me and thought I knew that. We honestly talked it out and worked through things for a solid few hours. We came to a really good place and connected for the first time in a long while. Then he went to work the next day, which hurt because I didn't really have the time to call in, as I'm severely behind at work, but I did anyway because I wanted to do the right thing for us and to take care of us. But because he just spent 2 weeks traveling across the country and is now super behind in his job, he couldn't afford to take any more time off. That really hurt, but I let it go because he really was behind, and at least I had the boys to catch up with. That day, my mom called to see what we were doing for my birthday, which was 2 days away. I had honestly forgotten about it with everything going on, so I told her I didn't know and asked if my husband had called her. She said he hadn't. So I told her I would let her know when we came up with a plan. That night, I asked him if he had a plan, and he said, "Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do?" That really hurt, but I let it go because we've had so much going on. I told him it would be great if we had a barbecue, and he agreed to invite people and get the groceries. I specifically asked if he would call my mom. He did get some of the groceries and surprised me with a cake, but that was it. I ended up inviting everyone last minute, having to apologize along the way, and had to go to the store twice to get the rest of what we needed. At the party, he started showing our friends pictures from his trip, pictures I haven't even seen yet. I was so mad, upset, and frustrated. He didn't catch on. Then it came time for gifts. His was a card game and a back rub. I felt like I'd been slapped in the face. To be clear, I don't place a high value on gifts. If you get me something, great. If you don't, that's fine. But he didn't get me anything for Mother's Day, while I got him a whole slew of things for Father's Day, including for his trip, and an Xbox game he wanted. I also planned each of those days by myself. And after traveling to the other side of the country, all he thought to bring me was a card game? I didn't want to fight in front of our friends, so I let it be. I didn't really expect more than that anyway, but it still hurt. Then I went back to work, and things were meh. Anything he did irritated me. Anything his mom did irritated me. I was getting so frustrated, sad, and angry, and just not myself. Then I had a medical issue, something that pokes its head up every 5 years like clockwork, but I'd been ignoring it because of everything going on, come back, so I went to urgent care to take care of it. But I had to take care of all sorts of things first so that my going to the doctor didn't hamper my husband's day, so I was really irritated in the morning. It didn't help that his mom came over. I just can't handle her right now. It also didn't help that he told me that morning about all the plans he had come up with for our son's birthday in a few weeks. I was mad at myself for being upset. I should be stoked that my husband is thinking about our son and wants to give him a great birthday party, but I was so deflated, sad, and angry in that moment. But he had to go to work, so I left it alone. Before I went, I sent him a text apologizing for being irritated. I told him that I'm not in a good place mentally or physically and really struggling. He asked how he could help, and I responded that I really didn't know. Then I saw the doctor, and he referred me for surgery. This will be the 3rd time I've had surgery for this. I was so frustrated, sad, and hurt that I decided to just put it all out there. And since he can't seem to find the time to actually talk to me, I texted him a novel, laying out everything that's on my mind. The trip, my birthday, him not taking time, our son's birthday, everything. After an hour, he hadn't responded, so I sent him another text saying that maybe he could just tell me I'm not crazy and that we'll get through this together, or something like that at least. He responded to that, saying that he loves me and has lots to say but can't say it over the phone. So then I went to work and did the things. I felt a little better that he didn't discredit all of my frustrations, so things were okay. That night, he called to tell me he loved me and was going to take the next day off to spend with me. It was also my day off. I was pretty darn stoked. The next day, I asked him what were the things he wanted to say. And he said he didn't want to say it in front of the kids. So that night, I asked him again, and he said that we'd been having such a great day, he didn't want to ruin it by making me emotional, so he wasn't going to say it then. I felt like I'd just been punched in the gut. So wait, you've been so nice since I texted you, but now I'm going to be sad and upset? What is going on? It's now the next day, and I just asked him again. He completely blew me off and went to town to pick up our son from camp. I am at a loss. I don't know what to do. I can only ask him to talk to me so many times. He doesn't share his thoughts or emotions often, but I would think he would do it now, right? I don't know what to do. Relevant comments. I don't understand why you keep letting things go and deluding yourself into thinking you're in a good place. Your husband spent days in a hotel room with a younger woman. He gaslit you into believing it was no big deal and acted like you were the crazy one for seeing it as a problem. In what world is that okay? How much of a doormat has he turned you into that one conversation blows it all over? Your mill set him up to cheat on you. In no world is it appropriate for him to share a room with a younger single woman. He knows that. She knows that. If you think he's a good guy, I don't know what kind of blinders you're wearing or what cool aid you're drinking, but stop. He blew off your birthday. He couldn't even muster the effort to go to the grocery store, let alone send some texts. He was away from you for 2 weeks and couldn't even bring you some postcards along the way? My son was on a school trip for 4 days, and he brought me all kinds of little things because he saw a pretty postcard in a gas station that he thought I'd like. Or he was in a gift shop and thought a keychain was something I'd enjoy. So, your husband is less considerate than a teenager on a school trip with all his teenage buddies? He keeps giving you excuse after excuse and pretends everything is fine. You laid it all out there via text, and again, he blew you off. He gave you some love bombing in the form of family time, expecting to sweep everything under the rug. He's hoping to wear you down before you find out what he actually did in that hotel room, or how many times he's met that woman before, or just to ensure he can keep feeding you lies after betraying your marriage with his mom's help, and you'll just ignore it. At some point, you have to acknowledge that you have a lousy husband and a very unhealthy marriage. How many ways does he have to show you that you're not a priority? He doesn't respect you, and he couldn't care less about your feelings before you believe him. Update 4. I apologize for the late update. My health took a pretty drastic turn for the worse for a while. But no worries, all is good now, so I can drop the conclusion. I had a really good talk with my doctor about putting myself first, and she is getting me in touch with a counselor. Now, for the update, it's barely an update, and for that, I'm sorry. When I finally got him to tell me what he wanted to say, he ended up saying it in front of the boys anyway. He only brought up 2 things I had mentioned in the novel I had sent him. The first was that I was going to look for a counselor. He said he loved that idea and that talking to one had really helped him. Then he mentioned how much weight I have gained since the birth of our last child. He said that he still finds me incredibly attractive, as should be evident by the fact that he still shows up in bed. Then he started talking about what I shouldn't be doing if I wanted to lose weight and apologized for the fact that he and the boys have ridiculous metabolisms and don't have to worry about it. I asked him to stop giving me weight loss advice. That wasn't the point of me telling him. I asked if there was anything else he wanted to say, and he said no. Just those 2 things. So, at this point, this is where I am. My husband did not cheat on me. I do know this is true. I'm still not in a good place because of so many things happening at once, so I am seeking help. Thanks for the advice and support from most of you. But this is my last post on this. I won't be able to actually work on my marriage while reading some of these responses. Relevant comments. Wow. Well, it is your life, not anyone else's. His idea of treating you with love and respect and honor, and make up for his many missteps, is to try and make you less fat. But don't worry, he still wants to sleep with you as is. I really hope for the best for you. Like most following your story, I think he treats you like crap and beyond taking you for granted. He won't change because he feels he isn't behaving wrong. You deserve a better, happier life. I'm so sorry.